Okay, the scariest movie to me is Scream, the movie we're talking about this week, because it asks the question, what if you got a phone call? And that's what I'm afraid of. Our relationships to phones used to be we were ruled by the phone, unlike now. But it was like a phone rings in the house and it's like, you answer that, you drop whatever you're doing.
The phone used to have its own room or like own spot, like its own table, its own moment in the house. And now it's just the thing we scream for, like, where's my phone?
Listeners to Load-Bearing Screams. It's a spooky October again.
You're wearing the Scream, the shirt. No, you're not. Is it in the style of the Scream?
It's supposed to be Edvard Munch's The Scream. No, this is Van Gogh. This is
I totally made the connection though when I was like, wait, no, my shirt is your shirt? Okay.
Now more people listen to the show than watch it. So
Sorry.
We are both pointing at our shirts. Lacey has Ghostface from Scream all over her shirts, and I have a Stormtrooper in the style of Van Gogh.
But Munch is the Scream.
It would be more apropos to be wearing a Scream t-shirt. I used to have a Homer Simpson Scream shirt. I don't anymore. I sure wish I did. But happy Halloween, everybody. Happy October.
Spooky.
Happy spooky.
Yay.
Lacey, what's your favorite scary movie?
What the fuck? I didn't know there's going to be a test.
No?
This
okay,
one?
well, I'll give you some time to think about it. And then everybody listening or watching the show, Scream is your favorite?
It's up there. No, my number one favorite scary movie is Get Out.
Is Get Out? Okay. Mm-hmm. And Get Out.
Not because it's scary, because it's good.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. If you want to hear us talking about this, we talk about in our bonus video. Every week we do a bonus video that we post to our Twitter, Load-Bearing Pod, our Instagram, Load-Bearing Beams, and our TikTok, load.bearing.beams. That's where you find the bonus video that is related to the subject of our episode. And this week, we brainstormed about movies and the types of horror movies that are actually scary to us. That are actually scary.
I'm acting out everything you're saying over here too.
Yeah, I
as
appreciate
a helpful
it.
person.
You Scream a movie that is scary to you. Do you find it scary at all?
Yeah.
Aside from just jumping around.
No, I do. The concept of it, especially the opening scene. Once it starts to be a problem for Neve Campbell, I'm like, get her. No, okay. It just happens so often to her that it's weird if she has any time where she's not getting approached.
I agree with that. I think that's an issue with the movie. Way too much.
It happens too often, yes. Too much casual menacing.
More than you think. You're like, boy, I didn't remember Ghostface stalking them in the grocery store. That's pretty dumb.
Like, yeah, even when like she's not looking and it's not even going to matter for another several minutes. It's just background. Like him in the bushes. I didn't remember any of that. And I know the movie very well.
You might as well hear a dun dun dun. Oh my God, he was there the whole time.
But when you know who the killers are and understand their experience level, you do start to think about like, it makes sense. You don't really know what the fuck to do. Like, should we pound? Do we do it now? Do we make this last longer? What if we kill her now? How about, I don't know. It is the adorableness of, especially Scream 1, is how little understanding they have of actually how to do it or get away with it.
The killers.
Yeah.
That is the nice part, and it's probably it's one of my favorite parts of the movie is when they are revealed, and now you realize these are just dumb idiots. And the whole movie, you're like, oh, but then the killer has been a dumb idiot who you can throw a beer bottle at, and it'll momentarily stop him.
Even shakes his.
It's a nice subversion of the slasher genre,
I think so.
Where the killer is not invulnerable. And this movie was your pick. You love this movie.
I love it.
And we wanted to do spooks this month. And I was remembering as I'm preparing all the research for this movie, oh, right, I've done all this before because 3 years ago, Lacey and I abandoned mid-record an episode on the entire Scream franchise.
Oh, what happened to us? Did we get scared?
We started talking, and I think that we realized it was our old thing. We should only talk about one movie. It's bad to talk about multiple movies.
That actually sounds familiar.
You start to be like, well, should we save that for Scream 3? When we start fighting. But I had doing all this research, learning all the stories. Like I've seen all this. I've heard about all of this before.
Yeah, when you suggested that we do it, I had a strong feeling of like, but we already have.
Yeah.
That stops us. We'll do it again, bitches. We don't care.
What are your memories of this movie? Did you see it in the theaters?
For sure. Yes. What year? It was 96?
96.
Oh, so yeah, I would have been just old enough to endure this in the theater. It's a movie with lots of like, don't worry, the sun's coming up, which is my favorite part of all scary movies, is after like just a short burst, God, I hope it's short, of terrifying shit. It's like, oh, the sun's up. And I feel like this movie resets about 1 million times with like, oh, okay, safety.
Safety, yes.
Oh, good,
things are going to be okay for a moment or two.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. In this movie, it could have gone terribly wrong. They give us so many different characters to follow, especially with the layer of Gale and Dewey, who you have no idea. These aren't just throwaway characters and moments, or even like freaking Kenny in the van. Like you spend lots of time with lots of people.
You spend a lot of time with Kenny. You forget about Kenny. Justice for Kenny. I like Kenny.
And then Randy, who I is a fucking delight. There's a lot of moments that are just with him or him with a. It feels like Neve Campbell's in the entire movie in my brain, but she's not. And I think it's all these breaks that allow me to tolerate all the Neve Campbellness of Neve Campbell.
You don't like Neve Campbell.
I like her, but she's very quirky and tick and very physically I struggled to say this like 2 or 3 things, but then all of a sudden I'm gonna like quote philosophy. She like randomly has very intelligent mini words strung together.
Wait, I'm trying to follow because you said that it's all of her business, her face business, that
a lot of business
bugs you, but it's also the things she's saying.
Because it's like she struggles to get her words out with her like little pauses, but then all of a sudden she's talking to someone like Randy and there's no stakes, like nothing's wrong, and she goes, oh, you mean like that aforementioned soliloquy in the park, whatever the fuck she says. And she's like all right, someone's been doing their tongue exercises. She's an onion. There are layers. It's just she gives a lot of she's rich like a chocolate truffle.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. She's
her
dark chocolate. You need
bursts.
Yeah, you just need a little.
It goes a long way, and it makes me happy, but I can't keep going with it.
Well, I agree with you. I was struck by how she disappears from the movie for long stretches at a time, and I feel like this movie is largely on her shoulders, and I think she really pulls it off. I think she's excellent in this movie.
I do too.
But it's also surprising that you will go 20, 30, 25 minutes without checking in with Sydney. And maybe that changes in the sequels. We only watched the first one.
True. But this movie knows it's a whodunit, and it's giving you so much bad boyfriend that it has to do a lot of work to pull your attention away from Billy to like for that to be a real twist. It has to have the phone call from jail. It has to have his phone being completely clean. It has to show you like literally every male, never a female, every male they introduce in this movie, they give you a moment to think that male is
you
the killer.
pointed this out about the cop, which I've and I've seen this movie many times. I never because I only know that Billy is the killer and also Matthew Lillard. It's never occurred to me like, oh, I guess if I did know, I would start suspecting the chief of police, because you were pointing out they're showing his boots and stuff, and they look like
just the scene before is the bathroom scene where Neve is checking underneath the stalls over and over again, and just as she's like, okay, there's no one in here, those combat boots come down, and then the dress lowers, the dress of the costume. And then the next scene is the chief smoking cigarettes, which Dewey points to is odd for him. He thought he quit. And so they make him a show of him taking a cigarette, putting it on the ground, and stomping it out with the exact same boots. But they also do that with the principal, who is like the most adorable, maybe a little too loving principal, Henry Winkler. But, it's meant to be scary how wild he is with those scissors to the 2 kids that piss him off, and the zink, the sounds that he makes with those scissors, and how he gets really close to their face, and he's so passionate. What could he be actually capable of? And then he's playing around in the mask. It's like, what? This guy's fucking twisted.
You're right. I mean, it is doing just the classic meat and potatoes whodunit. You introduce the most likely suspect and then immediately clear him.
Distract.
I mean, like, oh, okay, I guess it's never. And then you're like, of course it's not her skeezy boyfriend. That would be too basic, but then it ends up being the skeezy boyfriend in the end.
But when you know who it is, you do see the insensitivity running through him and Skeet and Matthew Lillard's character the whole time. I mean, there's nothing redeemable about Stu ever. He's just such a fucking delight that you forgive him. You're like, oh, he's just a horny boyfriend. He is an awful friend and boyfriend the whole time. Mm-hmm. And once you know he's capable of murder, like, okay, this works. This makes all the sense in the world. Well, he's just a charming person. He's just a popular kid.
Yeah, but teenage boys are still, like, even if they don't murder, they're still basically morally murderers.
But when you think of the things he actually says after the horrific shit that just happened, and knowing that 1 year ago, Neve Campbell's character had a mom brutally murdered in the same fashion, you just wouldn't. 1 year is such a short amount of time. You'd still be not saying the word like, I want to kill myself or I wish I were dead around her.
It would be a thing where Neve Campbell enters the room and a hush falls over the room, even for her close friends.
Yep.
Like, oh, hey, bud. How you doing there, champ?
1 year is nothing. That she even kept a boyfriend through all that is crazy.
He's like, what's the deal? Everything's been different for the past year. It's like
fucking crazy at first, and then your mom goes and dies. You're being weird.
So my memories of this movie are I saw it when I was a kid. I liked it. It was not a staple movie for me. The most times I've seen it have been in the past few years watching it with you. To prepare for the podcast, we watched it again with our kid who was kind of obsessed with horror movies and was like, this is one of the iconic giants of the genre. We have to watch it. I like it, and I don't love it. I like it a lot. What I'm mostly interested in is the Wes Craven. Like, anything he does is good. If he's doing horror, it's interesting, and nobody's better at just simple killer moving through a house as he is. And there are a lot of performances that I really like. The thing that bugs me, and this is weird, if they didn't have the meta stuff, I think I'd like the movie more.
When is
and even more than that,
the Randy
script,
moments?
Yeah. The script by Kevin Williamson, which I know is like to so many people is what makes the movie. The dialogue that these people say, and I know it's tiresome for people to complain about dialogue not being like realistic things that teenagers would say. That's not what bothers me. It is so obviously like cleverly written that it annoys me, and no one in the movie is able to pull it off.
And maybe that's what I'm explaining about how like the natural way Neve Campbell uses her gestures and vocal fry and tick and whatever does not totally jive with what they've written for her to say sometimes. Yeah. It's like she's traumatized and going through a lot and reliving horrific things in a way that no one else in this town is, and everyone except for maybe Dewey and even sometimes Dewey are so lighthearted the whole time. Are you okay? I don't count how many times someone asked Neve if she's okay, but it's so many. And no, because that's the reality. You're with a person who's been through a lot, but you're not trying to have a bummer day. So it's like, you okay?
Yeah, check the box.
Because you just want them to be.
I asked you if you were okay.
No, not even that. Just say yes. So I can fucking move on.
Hey, tell me you're okay.
Right. Do I need to spend today taking care of you, or are you okay? It's like, just never be a person who a tragedy happens to. No one likes you.
Do I have to be the person who takes care of you all day? Because if so, I'm leaving.
All right. It's draining on the other people. I get it. It's just like fucking sucks. Like, how can you truly be there for somebody going through something like this? How could you? You have to pair up. They all need to go through tragedies, and then that's when the friend bond is better.
I know that the movie is the movie. We only know the movie as it exists.
Yeah.
Watching it last night, do you think that it is trying to pack too much in with also this backstory of her mom,
Gale Weathers,
and the relationship to Gale Weathers and to Liev Schreiber and the book, and the mom had all these affairs? To me, it's always struck me as like
I love it.
Slasher movies are way more basic and fine tuned.
I'm impressed. And again, maybe fuck. I don't know if this is my nostalgia and just that I understand all of it, so I'm not confused watching it. But watching it this time, I realized if it weren't for Gale Weathers, I'd be more scared the whole time. I know she's mad at her, but like, that's the only adult in this entire movie. Her dad is gone right away because you need that as a red herring, and she's staying with Tatum, whose mom you see once, but it's just a mom, right? It's not a dad. Dewey's an officer, but they immediately, take his balls away. So there's no threat there. But Gale's in the picture. And as soon as the second time Neve encounters Gale, and she's like, do you think she's the only informed, powerful adult in the entire movie. And when they're together, I'm like, okay, you're safe. Gale's here, you're safe.
Is it a good? Shouldn't you want to be more scared? I mean, I get what you're saying.
She's not around enough to make me feel not scared. But.
Every time I watch this movie in the past few years, I've thought Courtney Cox, for me, is the best performance in the movie, is my favorite part of the movie, because she's bringing, she is the adult in the room, but you get like a random sort of 15-minute rom-com with her and David Arquette, and they have really good chemistry.
Yeah.
And suddenly Gale Weathers stops being like a careerist bitch and just becomes nice and flirty and kind of sexy lady. And I was just thinking like, oh, we should have, too bad she didn't get to do more movie comedies, instead just became a super wealthy TV star. But I really love that part of this movie, and I think that has allowed Scream as a franchise to transcend beyond teen movie, because you also have this 30-year-old interjected into it who's very seamlessly part of everything.
100%. There's something for everyone.
So the history, we're getting into the history of Scream, and there's a lot. Now, the year is 1996, Lacey, and the Cold War has been over for 5 years. The conflict that defined the previous 50 years of American history, it was fading into the past. For 50 years, it's hard to believe this now, but if you were living in the 80s, you could be like, is there a chance that communism becomes the default philosophy guiding the world and the way that we relate to each other and to the state and to work, that it all changes? Oh my gosh, but no, that the communism loses, capitalism is triumphant. Now the dominant mode of how we define ourselves is in terms of the consumer choices we make. American culture is fixated on spectacle and celebrity because we don't have a big enemy anymore. The O.J. Simpson trial enthralls a nation. The internet is coming. Everybody knows it's coming. We don't know what it's going to do. We have a computer at our house and it's annoying and slow and there's not really much to do on it, but I know this is going to be big.
We sure do turn it on every day.
And then turn it off at the end of the day.
Yeah, because you like to hear it take its deep breath of home.
And that's satisfying. You did good. And the political system grinds to a halt to impeach a president over receiving a blowjob. It was the end of history. There were no more battles to be fought. Okay.
Goodbye. You're welcome.
At this point, we turn inward. We see a proliferation of movies and TV shows influenced by the broad range of philosophical movements categorized under the umbrella of postmodernism. We get The Simpsons. We get Seinfeld. We get Pulp Fiction. And now I have on screen for us a photograph of a McDonald's Big Mac. Succulent. Beautifully photographed. It triggers in your mind, I would like a Big Mac, even as I'm aware I'm not looking at a Big Mac. I'm looking at an image of a Big Mac. Not even an image of a Big Mac. I'm looking at a model of a Big Mac.
Yep, that is the Cindy Crawford of Big Macs.
Because, of course, a real Big Mac, when you photograph, just looks like a real Big Mac.
Why is the meat pink?
We're inundated with images all day, every day, which mediate our experience of reality. And as John Baudrillard explains in his 1981 book, Simulacra and Simulation, the relationship between the representations of reality and reality itself, and how the former comes to overpower the latter. A word, an image, a sign represents a description of reality. But a simulacrum does not describe reality. It describes nothing at all. And there's 4 stages by which Baudrillard describes this happening. There is the sacramental order, there is the order of maleficence, there is the order of sorcery, and there is pure simulacra. Words, images, signs turn into simulacra, which represent nothing other than themselves and other simulacra. And now,
meaning,
giant leap here.
Okay. Woo!
Movies about movies.
Okay. That was an expression of meta? A definition of...
postmodernism means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But when postmodernism really, really takes hold of the culture in the 1980s and 1990s, meta becomes big, self-reflexive movies that know that you, the audience, have seen movies before.
Yeah.
And so we're going to use your knowledge of movies and the rules that govern movies and the tropes of genres to trick you or to undermine you or to subvert your expectations. Even movies that you don't think of, like Batman from 1989, like it opens with the first thing you see is, a family leaving a theater.
Oh.
You follow them and you assume, the viewer, I'm watching young Bruce Wayne
Right.
about to, but no, it's a different unrelated family. And then Batman comes into the frame and the movie's playing with your expectations of how Batman movies work, or at least your expectations of what you're going to see in a Batman movie. And then, the movie itself seems to be simultaneously taking place in the 1920s and the 1980s. So it's subverting your idea of like a movie is stuck in time. A movie takes place in a certain period of time, but this movie seems to be taking place in two or more different periods of time.
I guess I just assumed that was a Batman thing, a Gotham thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was a Tim Burton thing.
It's both. It's both.
Gotham's always seemed like in the future and in the past, like the buildings seem impossibly tall and it's clean, but yet it's never not foggy and it's never daytime. It's never.
It's always been influenced by film noir. What Tim
Right.
Burton brought in, I think, was the German expressionism and,
Right.
and just the horror.
Brutalism.
But that was more of a Joel Schumacher thing.
Dang it.
With the big Atlas statues and stuff.
Yeah. Darn. Darn.
But, in the 80s, we get cable TV and we get VHSs, and suddenly movie fans, their relationships to movies change because now we can watch movies on repeat. We can watch anything we want at any time.
Do you know something? I've never realized this because I've never thought of Scream as a movie about movies, which is stupid because I should. But then because of this popularity, they then make not another scary movie or scary movie, whatever they make, scary movie. So then yet a movie about a movie that's a movie about a movie.
Yes. And in the case of Scary Movie, a movie that is called what Scream was called while it was being produced, because Scream was scary. It was called Scary Movie while it was in development.
Like it was called Stab. Wait, no, that's what Scream calls the movie about Scream in the next. Jesus.
And then Scary Movie is made by the same studio that made Scream. So it's like we make the thing and then we make the parody of the thing and we get you on both ends.
Whoa.
So
Exit through the gift shop.
yes, exactly. Exactly. A dismal land.
This is amazing. Matt, you're taking me on a journey.
The relationship that, your film fan has, it moves from going to the cinema, going to repertory screenings and stuff. Now you're in your home or you're at the video store. You're communing with the video store clerk who has all this vast knowledge, with a Quentin Tarantino type. Now you're not just seeing the big classics. You're seeing all of the entries in the genre. You get to see every good and bad and shitty and low budget and high budget horror movie and sci-fi movie and exploitation movie.
It's a real moment of choice. I never thought about a video store as that because they always existed for me. It feels like the thing that doesn't exist anymore because we have too much choice. But it was the start of that. I never thought about it. Like just blockbusters were what we had access to and direct to home things that were advertised on channels we watched. But what about all the other stuff that other people knew about that we didn't know about?
And now we have infinite choice that feels like way less choice. Like we have so many options that the experience of having the options feels like we have fewer options than we went to a video store. And it was all laid out there before us.
This is why I like to collect physical media.
Yeah, me too.
I can remember there's a lot.
Me too. So a notable example from the mid-90s of a postmodern, self-aware, meta movie is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This is 1994. This is 2 years before Scream. So Wes Craven, after he directed the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie in 1984, and then he was tangentially involved with Nightmare on Elm Street 3, he left the franchise. He viewed it as kind of a millstone around his neck. It was super successful. It made him very rich, but he's like, he was a guy who didn't just want to be a horror movie director.
Is it easier to name directors who do just want to be?
I know.
It's always the...
John Carpenter didn't...
I thought he had set out to do more,
But I don't think he minded being called the master of horror or being identified as a horror master.
If you're going to be the master.
Yes.
It's nice. You don't want to be like the henchman of horror.
I feel like all we talk about is directors who's like, I never wanted to be pegged down as just a horror guy.
Or the actors who actually break free, because we always phrase it like that. Like, they got their big start here. No, it's like they got out. They knew. Get the fuck out of there. Jamie's the one that got away.
It's true. I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, if you're successful in TV, it's like, yeah, but could you make it in movies?
But don't you think now there's some real standouts that just keep finding themselves in horror movies in the last few years, especially Mia Goth, who, of course, they're going to be, they'll do whatever they want. Like, there's something more prestige about horror. Horror movies seem to be more important than ever, because maybe they're like the one thing that studios will still make that's not a superhero franchise movie, or like the idea that is scary makes it a part of this bigger property rather than needing to actually be part of or maybe that's just the independent scene is behind horror. I don't know. Maybe there just seems to be more horror to watch that people actually go see. So you can become a real star.
It's the consistently successful at the box office genre. And usually it's lower budget, and there's just generally an audience for it. Horror people will just go see horror movies. It almost doesn't matter. It's not like it hasn't necessarily, what's happened to all of movies. The cliche you hear is people used to go to the movies. Now they go to see a movie.
Right.
But want to go to the movies? Yeah, sure. What's playing? We'll find out when we get there.
Yeah, I just go to the dollar show and we would just pick a movie while we were there.
And in a way, horror movies are still kind of like that. There are people who will just, if there's a horror movie, I'll go see it. And that kind of doesn't exist for the other genres. But in that way, it feels a little siloed off. And if you become a star, you're a star in that world, and you'll go make a lucrative living doing cons and stuff. But you're not really part of our mainstream.
That's what I'm saying. I think that may be not true anymore, because you look at the star from Long Legs, who was also in Watchers or whatever, the two movies we just happened to watch back to back with the same star in it.
Yeah, Micah Monroe.
Yeah, she seems perfectly like mainstream and good and interesting enough to do a drama and then maybe a comedy. Like, I don't think you can go straight from her roles to rom-com, but I don't know. I guess I just feel like she's had enough publicity. It's not like these B movies and stuff where that's the places people get stuck.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't feel like at least we have horror actors anymore. It feels like anybody can be a horror actor.
Yes.
James McAvoy is leading, Speak No Evil, and he's just a regular
I feel like people
movie
are
star.
really getting like a kick out of it though, with Josh Hartnett being a killer and Nicolas Cage being a bad guy, and fucking Chris Hemsworth. When was a bad guy in Mad Max? Who was that?
Oh, Chris Hemsworth.
So don't say I'm saying people who are going against type and being in. I thought
you were going to talk about a horror movie though. You were talking about Furiosa. Not a horror movie.
I know, but I still named a guy who is real.
You did name a guy who's real.
Who doesn't usually play a villain, and that was my point.
Okay. So
I named 3 fucking actors in a row, and I got no dyslexia points from you. That's where I'm burnt up right now.
No, I wrote them down.
My ass is chapped.
I wrote them down.
You didn't let me have Mad Max. You're like, no, Hemsworth, no.
I was so impressed when you said Mia Goth. There was only like a second's hesitation, and you just said it.
I just said it. I went for it.
You weren't like Mia, because it sounds made up. Mia Goth. Did Tim Burton draw her? All right. Wes Craven leaves the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise behind, but he returns for the 7th entry in the franchise. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is what it's called. This one takes place in the real world and involves the actors from the first movie and Wes Craven playing himself being haunted in the real world by Freddy Krueger as a new Freddy Krueger movie goes into production. And it has them like revisiting sets from the first movie and inadvertently saying lines from the first movie. The film was polarizing for fans at the time and was a financial disappointment because it wasn't just a normal Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And I think that there's probably an age divide for people who, get it, who get the meta thing,
right,
and people who are just confused by it. I remember learning on the Simpsons commentary that the episode Homer's Enemy had like an age divide for people who hated it and people who loved it. And me is like always
Frank
growing
Grimes
up.
one?
Yes, is always growing up loving it. Like who wouldn't love it? But at least the writers and producers and animators of the show said there was a certain kind of fan who just didn't understand the concept of taking a person from the real world and having him be forced to work at the nuclear power plant with Homer and being confused by how this universe works. So it's like the people of our generation have sort of internalized the idea, the self-reflexivity of postmodernism. We're living in Baudrillard's nightmare. We see only simulacra everywhere, and all we think about is how they interact with each other. But what we never do is think about reality. But we'll return to Wes Craven shortly.
Bites millennial
You
joke.
said it, sister.
Okay.
All right. Kevin Williamson was the screenwriter of Scream. He was 30 years old at the time. He would go on to create Dawson's Creek. He wrote movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer, which came out a year before Dawson's Creek, is also set in North Carolina, has a piece of geography named Dawson's Cove or something. I just watched it last night. That's why I noticed. The Faculty. And then he went on to create The Vampire Diaries. But he started his career as a soap opera actor and then transitioned into screenwriting. He took a UCLA screenwriting class. So he's like professionally taught the rules of screenwriting. So it makes sense that he would then be like, but what if this? He sold his first script, Teaching Mrs. Kringle, in 1995, but it wasn't produced, at least until later.
Christmas movie?
No, it's like a killer movie. And then he started working on this horror movie script inspired by the serial killer Danny Rolling, also known as the Ripper, who killed 5 college students in Gainesville. And he was house sitting one night while he was watching this TV special, and he started to get freaked out, but then decided, wait a minute, maybe there's a movie here of someone being at home and scared.
And also being in a house that's got too many doors and too many windows. There's a reason why. That's the beauty of something that Scream does really well is pick the houses. You need circles. You need stairs. You need lots of doors to go through. You need rooms you don't expect to lead to other rooms that then push you outside for some reason. And for Drew Barrymore's house, it was important that she had 3 doors to lock.
It's an excellent point. And I
it's
think
all windows.
I think that I've always why I don't hold these movies in the esteem that I hold the other slasher movies is the slasher movies need an element of coziness. I need to want to be in these houses, and the houses in Scream all seem a little sterile, or just like big and uninviting.
They're too
just kind
big.
of McMansion-y. But that's the point, that they are vast.
They're
and you
the
have to
scene.
feel while you're in them like you're a stranger in your own house. Like I shouldn't be here.
So house sitting makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Or someone who isn't used to having the whole house to themselves because their mom and dad are at the movies or their dad is away on business, right? You need to look small and feel small and having all the access to the space. Always seems so weird to me, this idea of like, I'm going to have a party at my house and people who don't understand what these rooms are for are going to go in these rooms and use them the wrong way. And like, so when Neve and Billy go and have sex in Stu's mom's room, I'm like, that's not what that room's for. Ew. And you're smelling their smell while you're having your first dick in you. Ew. So I just love this idea of like foreign spaces that are other people's like private sanctity spaces.
Oh my God, though.
Those are always in scary movies.
This is
Halloween.
Yeah, in our Halloween episode, we talked a lot about them having sex in the bed of the
under the covers.
Under the covers of the Jarvises or the Doyles. I don't remember which. And we're talking about how you're getting Mr. Doyle's pubes on you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ah yes.
Ah yes. But we'll talk more about how they have sex in the parents' bedroom later.
Okay.
We always seem to. America, pre-financial collapse. Everybody's like, I make $35,000 a year working in an office and I can afford an 8,000 square foot home. We all feel like we're strangers in a strange land. We didn't this is too much. We don't actually earn it. And the corrections
Don't need it.
are coming. Corrections in the form of Ghostface. Come to get you.
Yeah, with that kind of square footage, you need a housekeeper. Where is that housekeeper? You didn't know what to do with that big house.
So he completed the script for the movie he called Scary Movie in 3 days. He designed the opening scene of the movie to entice Hollywood execs because he knows this is what they're looking for when they read a script. And a little bidding war happened, and the project ended up at Miramax. And Miramax at the time, run by Harvey Weinstein, had a sister label, Dimension, which was run by Bob Weinstein. And it was for less prestige-y, less Miramax-y movies. Mm-hmm. And then after Scream became a big hit, it basically just became the horror label.
Okay, yeah, because as soon as it comes on the screen, I'm like, ooh, something scary.
Yes.
And something quirky.
So the project...
Clever. Not quirky, clever.
So the project is offered to Wes Craven. He turns it down several times before accepting because he's like, I don't want to do horror. I don't want to do slashers. I'm sad. But everything he's doing that isn't a slasher isn't working. And even New Nightmare didn't work very well. But I like this quote from Kevin Williamson in The Ringer's 2021 Oral History of Scream by Alan Siegel. So this is a quote from Kevin Williamson, and he says, quote, after Wes, signed on, I was going to his house for lunch, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to his house. This is super cool. I want to see how a big hotshot movie director lives. And so I get in my car and I get lost driving up, and I'm already late. And then I show up. He has all these pages of notes from my script, and I just see them sitting there on a table. And I'm like, oh no, this is going to be horrible. He's going to want to change everything. I've heard of these horror stories. I know what happens now. This is the moment I get kicked to the curb. I mean, I've always lived in fear of that. And then it turned out that he was like, well, most of these are typos. There was a bunch of typos. He goes, we should just fix everything, don't you think? It was a really great meeting because it was my first time with a director who was clearly taking the written word and starting to visualize it. He was starting to turn it into pictures. He was starting to paint on a canvas, end quote. Wes Craven, who was 56 when he directed Scream, and he died in 2015. Started out his career in academia, got a degree in philosophy, master's degree in philosophy from Johns Hopkins University, and he taught high school English, which explains all the notes about typos.
Well, we really do sometimes get a good connective tissue happening through our movies. It's so often that we will watch two movies in a row where you then have the same poster for some reason 2 or 3 times in our PowerPoints. We do not intentionally do it. Okay, so he was also involved with The Last House on the Left,
yes,
which was also written by Todd Phillips.
Sean Cunningham of Friday the 13th. And they were...
But why did it was on the Todd Phillips?
No, it was on the Friday the 13th Part 2 episode.
Damn
it! But he decided he wanted to work in film, and he went to New York and worked in basically any movies he could, in any job they would offer him. He did sound engineering, he did editing, he would write, he would produce, he did industrial films, he did pornographic films. And then with his friend Sean Cunningham, they independently made The Last House on the Left. His follow-up was The Hills Have Eyes in 1977. He directed a Swamp Thing movie in 1982, and then the big one, Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984.
Oh, that you don't have on here.
I figured I didn't even need it.
I thought you were saying, and then the big one, The People Under the Stairs. Was that the big one?
People Under the Stairs is really good, though.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
So yeah, it's an enormous hit. He wrote it, he directed it. It spawns a hugely profitable franchise. I'm sure he got super rich because of it. And he always had success making horror movies, but he was one of these guys. He's like, but I want to do real movies. So he
But can you?
Made a Meryl Streep movie called Music of the Heart.
Ugh.
And yeah, it's so weird. It's it's a drama film directed by Wes Craven.
Do you think that because he would have grown up in the time where hot waterbeds are cool, do you think to impress a girl he definitely wears the Freddy hands and then gets in the bed and then
absolutely
just ruins the night?
1000%.
Just pop.
I think he has a closet full. I think how just I have Generation Y bookmarks.
Deflated waterbeds in his closet.
Deflated waterbeds, yes.
Because he's don't bring the hand in the bed, Wes. Mm-hmm. Don't bring the hand. There we go. Mildewed carpet again.
They finally signed Wes Craven, and they signed Drew Barrymore on to play Sydney Prescott. Here's a quote from Kevin Williamson. Quote, when it finally got time to go into production, Drew was like, I just really want to be in the opening scene. That's the part I love the most. And I was happy to hear that because I always saw it as a sort of the Janet Leigh opening. Janet Leigh, if you don't know, is from Psycho, is presented as the main character of the movie. What were you doing? I
was doing Friday the 13th too.
Oh,
Janet Leigh, who has a sexy nightmare in the bed and then is murdered. No. I thought it was an homage to that. That's not her name.
It was not an homage to no. That's Adrienne King as Alice.
That's what I said.
Yeah, Janet Leigh presented as the star of Psycho, the big face on the poster, the most famous person in the movie, the person who is in every shot of the movie and then gets killed 40 minutes in. Yes. Okay. So you wanted the biggest quote. You wanted the biggest star to be in the first moment of the movie. That's why the scene is so long, because I wanted to keep Casey Becker alive just long enough where you think she's the lead of the movie and that she's going to survive this moment. It ended up just working out beautifully because that Drew liked that part. And then we could cast whoever we wanted for Sydney, end quote. And yeah, we were looking at the poster and trying to figure out who's the giant face.
It cheats because blue eyes just pop more on the poster, but Drew Barrymore has brown eyes. So that's why I didn't know it was Drew Barrymore.
But yeah, it's a photoshopped Drew Barrymore. And I was looking, like, somebody's like, no, and here's the picture it was taken from. There's like a series of headshots of Drew Barrymore. And
it looks like her. Once you said it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so she has the biggest face on the poster, and then just in the normal lineup with the other characters, she's right there in the front. Mm-hmm. They also do alphabetical billing, so it's David Arquette, Drew Barrymore, Neve Campbell.
That's smart.
Yeah. I before I saw the movie, I assumed this was a Drew Barrymore movie. Now I have a story that comes from the book Down and Dirty Pictures, and then we'll be done with the history. But I just really liked this story. So Bob Weinstein, who was, he's the good Weinstein. He's the one who didn't do his brother's crimes, and I'm sure he had nothing to do with any of those crimes. But his meddlesome, more famous brother was always getting involved, and now Bob Weinstein is starting to produce movies like his brother, and he decides I need to put my stink on here where I can. So from the book Down and Dirty Pictures by Peter Biskin, Bob said, "I'm scared. I don't know about this." He started picking at details. Why was Drew Barrymore wearing a sweater? Shouldn't it be racier? Her wig looks terrible. Cary Grant, who headed Dimension, was a friend of Conrad's. Conrad is a producer. He warned her, "Bob is not happy. This isn't going to get better. It's going to get worse." She replied, "What do you want me to do?" There was no answer. One day, Craven was shooting a scene with Liev Schreiber, who was doing a cameo as Cotton Weary, and Bob called the set, said, "Let me talk to Wes." Conrad interrupted Craven in the middle of a shot and said, "Bob wants to talk to you," she recalls. Bob told him that he thought Wes could do better. Wes said to me, "What kind of studio head calls a filmmaker in the middle of shooting and kicks him in the balls and expects him to be able to work the rest of the day and do good work?"
Bob did that?
Yeah.
The good one?
The good one, yes. Yes, but I like that he points out, like, if I ever get a shitty email from a client on a Sunday, I'm like, couldn't you just waited till Monday, and my Monday could have been ruined, but now my Sunday's also ruined? How am I supposed to go back to work and direct actors and be like, okay, Nav?
Also, it's the nightmare fucking client of, like, do better, any direction, any kind of direction at all. Do happy, do sexy. This make me sad. Like, say any other words. I don't know what you're saying is bad.
Yeah, and so he keeps saying, like, well, what's not working for you? What are you scared? What's making you nervous? What would you rather see?
Right.
And they're like, it's just not working. It's just not working.
What parts? He had specific things whenever he was talking to the other guy.
So they say, like, we're coming, we're gonna fly out there, and Wes Craven's like, fine, come out here.
I'm just gonna shit blood everywhere.
So
as a bystander.
One issue that Bob Weinstein has is with the mask. He thinks it looks too goofy. And they're like, but you approved the mask. You approved the mask. And he's like, but we didn't design this mask. And they're like, but you approved this mask. The point is it's a mask that you can just buy at a store.
Yes.
And then Bob Weinstein later said, like, I didn't realize that, like, in Halloween, they just purchased the mask from a store either. But he doesn't know which mask he wants. And so here's what they said, quote, Bob wants Wes to continue filming, shooting each scene with 4 different masks until he can decide which one he wants. And he was being told to go to hell. So then they send the exact...
Show me the masks. We don't have pictures of these other masks.
No.
Oh, tell me one was a stormtrooper.
So Bob sends his guy down to the shoot. Cary Grant is Bob's guy. So, quote, in any event, Grant got on a plane from California. When he arrived, he convened a meeting in Craven's hotel room at midnight that included Conrad, the line producer, and a couple of assistants, announcing, we have reached an impasse. He told them how they could placate Bob. Conrad thought he was being disrespectful to Craven. Interrupting, she exploded with, wait a second, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? You hired a guy who created the genre, basically, and you're telling him how to make the movie? The guy's made 30 some odd movies. This is the most insulting thing I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. And frankly, you're not offering us any help. You're just telling us how to keep beating around the bush until someone who's invisible decides they like what they see. This is no way to make a movie. It's going to cost a fortune. It's stupid, and we're not going to do it.
Who said that?
The Craven's producer.
A lady?
Yes, a lady. Yeah. That's what a producer does. You fucking stand up to the studio and you say, we're not going to take your shit.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I want to be a producer. Just
Well,
kidding. I want everyone to like me.
Yes. You can be a good producer or you can be the good producer or the evil producer. There's like two different kinds.
Yeah.
Basically work for the filmmaker's side or work for the studio side.
Sounds like Wes Craven has his people.
He does, yes.
Sounds like a nice guy.
Because then the book's like, to which Wes responded, yeah.
Aw.
Basically what they offered to do is
The slide's title is dumb, and I love it. Bob Weinstein became happy. Okay.
well, the earlier one was Bob Weinstein was not happy.
Got
Bob
it.
Weinstein became happy. Or Weinstein. They offer basically, okay, we'll put together an assembly of the 40 minutes or so. We'll send it and you watch it, and right there, you'll determine our fate. Are we going to keep going? If you like it, you leave us alone. If you don't like it, we pull the plug on everything. Quote,
Okay.
They cut together what they had, sent it to Miramax, and continued shooting. Pacing back and forth in front of the production office wondering, are we going to live or are we going to die? Conrad took a call from one of Bob's assistants who gave her an Elvis has entered the building play-by-play of the proceedings. The footage is in the office. The footage is on its way down to the screening room. The footage has reached the projection booth. The footage is being threaded. Bob is on his way down. Harvey is now with Bob. They're both seated. The lights have gone out. They're starting. I'll call you back. Conrad was shaking. Craven poked his head in 3 or 4 times asking, have you heard? Have you heard? Then 10 minutes later, Bob called Conrad. He said, that was fucking great. That was fucking great. Harvey levitated across the theater. It was unbelievable. Jesus Christ. You guys were right. I was wrong. I was so wrong. It's fucking amazing. Anything you guys want, anything. She recalls, that was it. We never heard from him again. I have to say it was one of the greatest calls I've ever received from a studio chairman in my life, end quote.
And what are your thoughts as soon as you hear that, Matt? Show me the 10 minutes. What did he see? I want to know what they shot and you got to see.
I think it just,
what parts?
the first 40 minutes of the movie.
They don't shoot in order.
No, I know, but we have enough footage to put together for you this stretch of the movie. I think they said they sent 40 minutes. I assume it would have been that stretch of them.
But they only watched 10 and they were like, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Well, that opening scene,
It's fucking great.
It is the best part of the movie. I think it is
But I just,
you don't?
It's like, it's probably the most iconic and it's amazing and it sets the tone, but I am so relieved to see these more, I don't know, these kids. I'm happy to see Neve after all that. Like, oh, look at her.
Yeah, because it's so tense. That's why it's good.
I know it's good. It's just not my favorite part of the movie.
All right, well.
My favorite part of the movie is the ending.
Yeah.
It's the kitchen stuff.
That's my second favorite part.
And the butt stuff.
The butt stuff.
There's no butt stuff. I just wanted to say butt stuff.
That's the only thing that can make the movie better. All right. Well, Lacey thinks it's the second best part. I think it's the first best part. Weigh in, #1, #2. And that's all the history we're going to get in now.
And we're going to get individually into history of each or have things to say about each actor as we go through the actual story.
These people
so
mean
don't
a
get
lot
worried.
to you people, I know.
So if you're watching this in on YouTube, because we just put the history up because it was a thick and rich text, and I think Matt should put it as an individual video, please do not shoot yourself in the foot and don't watch the second part.
Yeah, just click the link on your screen
It's
right
there.
now.
It's fucking right there. Or there. Or there. I don't know how this shit works. I'll bet it's here.
It's in a direction.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so Scream 1996 opens with very, very famous scene sequence with Drew Barrymore as Casey getting attacked by the killer. Well, first, a phone call. And I was just thinking every time I watch this movie, and I think all of the original Scream movies, I think our relationships to phones used to be we were ruled by the phone, unlike now. But it was like a phone rings in the house and it's like, you answer that shit. You drop whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
It is funny. Like there's nothing that you could be doing in the house that's more important than if the phone rings, you need to answer it.
The phone used to have its own room or like own spot, like its own table, its own moment in the house. And now it's just the thing we scream for. Like, where's my fucking phone?
Yeah.
Phones used to have their own booths, Matt. own places and restaurants. Phones
Really?
used to be escorted to a table if you were to get a call in a
my
restaurant.
gosh, yes. And
on a platter.
And this was not a wireless phone. This was they'd have a very long cord.
Risking the life of other guests. Yes, just a cord stretched across the room. I'm, of course, just getting this information from Mad Men. I would have never
Well, movies and television.
attended a restaurant important enough to get a call on a platter.
I guess maybe it was just ingrained into people because when phones first came out, they designed the ring to be so loud that it could be heard throughout the house because you only had one phone in the entire house. And then you started getting, and here's a word I realized, this word will date a person's age if they say an extension. Pick up the extension. Because I guess the idea was the phone itself is just the one phone. Every auxiliary phone in a different room is just an extension of the...
Well, how do you know where the megaphone is? What's the motherboard of a phone?
The mothership is the one, in the main phone, in the phone room, in the kitchen.
All right, then. Yeah. It always made so much more sense to me that do you remember... Well, number one, do you remember when you first got a cordless phone in the house? Mm-hmm. Like what a big deal that was? Mm-hmm. Only to realize that your mom bought the kind that has a really shit range. You're like, fuck! But do you remember that those phones came with like a mama phone and then there'd be like another one that was a baby?
Oh, sure.
But it's just like the mama phone had like an answering machine on it or something. And the baby.
Here, I could tell you what the mama phone is the one that actually plugs into the phone line. And then the baby phone just uses that wireless signal.
How could that baby?
Uh-huh.
Sucking at the phone teat. Yeah, so anyway, I'm always a little bit I'm like, no, memory whenever Casey picks up the landline phone. Oh, fuck, they're both landline. When Casey picks up the corded phone to answer the first call, because I guess she's in the main phone kitchen area room.
Yeah, it's in the phone room.
And I'm like, no, Casey hides with a cordless.
Oh, that's a good point.
What is going on? And then I realized that fucker calls her too many times.
And every time he calls, she has to just keep picking it up because it's like, I don't want to be killed, but I don't want to miss the call.
Well, because this one could be my boyfriend.
Yes.
Okay, now this one could be my boyfriend. Or this one is my family.
Killer.
And I mean, I guess it had to be true that spam calls were just way more rare. You mainly got important calls.
I guess.
Or maybe the calls that are important are so important that you just wade your way through the spam.
Do you remember when caller ID came out?
Well, Scream makes that easy to figure out. I bet it was 1998.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, 'cause it's a big deal.
And it used to
Caller
be...
ID, motherfucker.
So you could buy the caller ID device, but you had to subscribe as an add-on to the phone company to be able to see information on it. Or it would just show you phone numbers. It wouldn't tell you who the phone number belonged to.
Like a pager.
And this is another thing that the kids these days, they won't know what it was like. You started to know phone numbers by last name, comma, first name, middle initial of whoever was the account holder of so your friend called you and be like, oh, Evans SL, that's my friend Brandon or whatever.
That's how you get to find out that some people's names don't match their parents' names and who has gotten a divorce.
Uh-huh.
Somebody's living with a step parent. Busted.
You got it.
Ashley.
Now, all right, this opening sequence. I was trying to figure out, Drew Barrymore obviously was in E.T. in 1982, and I'm looking at her filmography, and there's like a handful of movies leading up to this. I mean, she's in Wayne's World 2, she's in Batman Forever, she's in Woody Allen's Everyone Says I Love You, but there's like a lot of movies where she's the lead actress, and I've never heard of any of them. Have you heard of?
Of course, Poison Ivy. Fucking shit is like...
Poison Ivy. What is it? Stars Drew Barrymore, Sarah Gilbert, Tom Skerritt, and Cheryl Ladd. My dad would like that, Cheryl Ladd.
She's like a seductress, right? Like she's a younger girl that like gets a guy to cheat on his wife or something like that, but she's poison. She's got other motives. That's my memory.
So she would have been like 16 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gross.
I mean, what, Gun Crazy, No Place to Hide, Doppelganger.
What about Boys on the Side? When was that?
Boys on the Side. Yeah, this is 95.
Okay, so that was before this?
This is before Scream, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big role for her because it was a dramatic role. Showed like she could be a real actress. She was like a big deal in my head before this movie came out, but maybe it was more just like, oh, you're that notable person. I've enjoyed you in a couple of things, but you seem maybe a little too old to be in this role.
But when they talk about her in Scream, when the the producers and stuff talk about her, they're like, with Drew Barrymore, that was the big name. And it's like, oh, Drew Barrymore's on board. Well, that means.
Yeah, no, you're right. This filmography is confusing me.
That's why I bring it up. Because like I'm trying to figure out.
When did Wedding Singer happen?
After
a lot later, because that's my favorite one of hers. Never Been Kissed is another one that would, in Home Fries, all those would have been movies I liked. Poison Ivy, go back up. I'm trying to figure this out with you. This is strange. Irreconcilable Differences. Show me the cover to that one, please.
Ryan O'Neal, Shelley Long.
I'm sure I saw it, but it wasn't one of my movies. Show me Far From Home. I know. I can read Far From Home. No. Man, I don't know. What was like her big? It has to be Girls on the Side, Boys on the Side.
Boys on the Side. Yeah, that looked like it was a little bit of.
Show me Bad Girls. Oh, Bad Girls. Yeah, for sure. That was like, and that's a good movie. It's like the female version of Young Guns. That one's actually a solid movie. I'd watch that. I'd give that a whirl.
Directed by Jonathan Kaplan. Okay, Mary Stuart Masterson from
I know.
From that movie, Fried
For
Green
some
Tomatoes.
reason, if a woman has 3 names, I remember who she is.
Really? And who plays the other woman in Fried Green Tomatoes with 3 names?
Does she have 3 names?
Well, I think her first name is hyphenated, so it's actually 2 names. So, okay, you get a pass.
Okay, great. Then I don't remember.
Mary Louise Parker, who you do the best impression in your repertoire is of her.
Well, thank you.
From that movie.
I agree.
Go ahead and give us something.
Iggy, if you love me at all, you'll turn around and...
It's just Iggy bringing me a pie.
Just walk right out that door, okay? Oh, no, just Iggy bring me a pie. Pie. She's always got to be deep in thought. And she's got a trail. That's just a pie. All right.
Remember on that episode, a lot of it was just like, what pills is she on? Why is she acting like that?
But it's just the distant stare of an abused woman.
Yeah.
Who has a station in life that is what it is, and what the fuck are you going to do about it?
So this this celebrated masterful opening sequence that we're not talking about,
right.
It's good. You like it?
I love it. It's my second favorite part, as we already said.
Yeah. I was thinking one of the big innovations of this movie in the slasher genre is it really makes you sit with how upsetting the violence is, at least with this opening scene.
Yeah.
The violence on her boyfriend and then the violence on her. You see the gutting.
A lot of entrails.
Yeah,
you kind of forget that in subsequent movies.
And then a thing that slasher movies rarely do is then the parents come and witness. Yeah. And you get the thing with the mom picking up the extension and hearing her daughter.
I can hear her.
I hear Casey.
Stop. She doesn't have a country accent, Mad.
Everyone does in my.
Okay. Well, you took away the power just now, didn't you? Baby? There's something so terribly real. I'm glad the rest of the movie doesn't go on like that, and nor do like movies that come after it. They keep the fun level up while still keeping the stakes high enough. But I couldn't have too many more scenes like that and still be a fan. It's
right, but having one at all, it made me realize you don't often see this in the slasher movies. The parents are usually removed.
Okay, and here's why I think that they do it. I think that they had to make it like this is not just a victim. This is just not some girl waiting for a boyfriend running around town. This could be you. This is your girl next door. That her parents came home and discovered this ruined their lives in this town. Just this one thing. So then you smash cut to the kids, the core 4 people, five kids of the movie, and then think about the way Stu basically Stu is talking about it.
Yeah.
And the way the kids are acting.
Rose McGowan too, because Neve Campbell's like, she sits next to me in English. You mean she sat next to you in English?
When did Jawbreakers happen?
Later.
Okay. And I guess, okay, they didn't just witness the whole thing. Well, I mean, okay, a couple of them did. But I do feel like it's supposed to maybe make you feel like how detached we are around a horrible tragedy, but that they're sitting right next to a person who experienced the most recent and similar thing and still acting like that. It seems a bit unbelievable to me that the kids would be mean enough in a school to go get the same costume and run around with it after a second and third attack. If it's these 2 kids from the school, that's bad enough, but when it's clearly serial, you don't buy the costume and run around at school. It's a little unbelievable for me, movie. town.
I think that it is very deliberate. I don't know. Have you watched Dawson's Creek, or did you ever? So I don't know Kevin Williamson's attitude about teenagers from that. But if I was just looking at this movie, I think there's a big undercurrent of like, just teens today are too fucked up.
Yeah.
And even the media, but I can't necessarily tell. Like he pans over the school and you have all the reporters. And before you get to Gale Weathers, there's another one who's like, the teenagers are into the occult. And I know that the movie doesn't actually think that's happening. No. But is his attitude as a 30-year-old person, and 30-year-olds generally like, the fucking kids today are so, I wasn't like that. We weren't. They have the thing with the sheriff saying like, 20 years ago, I never would have said a teenager could do something like that. But kids these days, he's like Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men.
I guess I thought it was more of a commentary on like rich kids and like kids that don't have a lot of trauma in their lives normally, these big giant houses, all of them, it takes you 2-3 houses, right? And they're all have an upstairs. Yeah. They all seem pretty well off.
No, Sydney's house, like in like a winery, basically.
It's in a majestic country. People visit that house.
Yeah,
to
like
buy
truly,
souvenirs.
that house probably cost $10 million
and to
in the
stay.
90s.
It's a bed and breakfast. But maybe just the cruelty of laughing at tragedy from their castles, or from their high status. I don't know.
Maybe.
But then also maybe it was just kind of like the thing to do in the 90s was make movies and shows about kids that had lots and lots of money. It's just more interesting and more like pretty to look at.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Is this a movie saying like, kind of like the It thing where like this town is a little wrong, but it doesn't seem to be the town. It seems to be the kids, because the adults are the ones saying what's going on here. I don't know. It's not fucked up enough.
No, but I think that there is an element of Kevin Williamson as already at 30 years old and Wes Craven at 56 being like, these fucking kids.
All right, your theory
with
stays.
Their MTV.
You win.
Thank you. So then we meet our heroine, Neve Campbell, as Sidney Prescott, typing on her computer. She uses the computer. She's
logging
smart,
data.
I guess. And then Billy Loomis from
right.
Psycho and Halloween, comes in and he's like, I was watching this lame-o TV cut of The Exorcist. And I know we watched in Scary Movie, they point out this joke, like what? Because he says like there's a TV edit, so they cut out all the good stuff. What good stuff is he talking about from The Exorcist that they cut off?
Well, the romantic moment of the small child using the crucifix to let Jesus fuck her.
Yeah, that
beautiful little moment of becoming a woman that we all,
we've all been there.
You don't think there's, it's got to be all the profanity, right? Let Jesus fuck you. Okay, I'm clearly just on this scene. Your mother sucks cocks in hell. What I was wondering is what's left of the movie when you take those things away.
I just assume teenage boy saying that he means either the nudity or the hardcore violence, but that movie doesn't have either. It has gross stuff.
It has violent sexual assault to a child, since it's not the child doing it to themselves, it's a demon.
But you don't see it.
Yeah, but that kid wakes up with just a destroyed vagina. It's sexual assault and violent sex with an object is it's quite graphic. But what was the question?
More of a comment, really.
Oh, that's an interesting thing that you said, that when a boy says that, a normal teenage boy, that they're talking about they didn't get to see the boobs, like in the beginning of Carrie, that there's full bush in the credits of the opening credits of Carrie. Like, yeah, you can chop that off real easy and make a TV edit. A normal kid would bring that up, but that's like your first huge hint that Billy isn't right, is that he wants the gratuitous violence and horrific shit spewed out of this child's mouth. He's twisted.
Right. Him saying The Exorcist like tells you something. Like, it's not like he's talking about
casual watching of The Exorcist. Yeah, I just don't feel like that was like a pastime then. Yeah. What about MTV?
No, but you could name any kinds of a Friday the 13th, but they cut out all the good stuff. Oh, they didn't show you the decapitation and the boobs. I gotcha.
There's just something edgier about The Exorcist, but all right.
Another thing I noticed second time watching the movie is he says, it occurred to me I've never snuck through your bedroom window. And that right there is a tell, like he is defining himself too much by tropes that he sees in movies and TV.
It's a well-studied observation of a psychopath. He he acts the way he thinks he's supposed to, and he is obsessed with TV. And
when in real life, is that actually a thing most people do, is sneak through each other's bedroom windows? No, but it happens in movies and TV all the time.
Constantly. Just because you can't go through the living room, it's not as like easy. We need a private scene with the kid. Just put a kid through the kid's window.
Yeah. So yeah, he's like, hey, what's wrong with us? We used to be hot and heavy.
On our way to an NC-17 rating.
We were a solid R rating on our way to an NC-17. And then something happened. I don't know what.
It's a big deal to you. I remember thinking it was, meh. What was it? That's so weird.
The death of your mother, and now we're...
Gruesome murder and rape of your mother.
Yeah.
That you walked in on. You saw it. I forgot that Sid finds her.
And now we're barely even a PG-13. And she's like, so what stud bucket did you think you could come over here and we'd start producing some raw footage? And he's like, no, I thought we could just do some over-the-clothes stuff.
I wouldn't dream of breaking your no panty rule. Okay, condescending. After her dad does almost walk in, just like she said was going to happen, then let's do heavy petting.
Yes. And then she's just like, okay. And then they start. And then he leaves. And yeah. All right. Neve Campbell.
He immediately goes to break the no panty rule, Matt.
Oh,
he is not a person that keeps his word. And she's
That's just guys doing guy stuff.
And there you have it. All right. But that's when she stops it. It's not like she was like, oh, let's make out for 4 seconds. He started doing more and she's like, clearly we can't do this. And then he says, God, don't you know what you do to me? My blue balls, my fucking throbbing balls.
I think he says you're such a tease.
Yes, I know. Which is just the same. Oh, God. It's triggering all these things. He asked to kiss. She said yes. And now she's the fucking tease.
I know. I called Lacey a tease once. She hasn't gotten over it.
Because it's not the first time I was called a tease.
No, I'm saying I've never called you a tease.
Oh, I just accepted that you had. All men do.
We're in our 30s.
The mailman yesterday. Tease. No, it's a male woman.
Neve Campbell was on Party of Five starting in 94, so she was a big deal already.
Another one I hadn't seen.
Skeet Ulrich, he was also in The Craft this same year, later this month, with Neve Campbell. Later, he'll be in As Good as It Gets, Ride with the Devil, Paul Schrader's Touch. So he's like, tour directors are like putting him in stuff, but it doesn't really.
What is he in As Good as It Gets?
He is.
The mean neighbor, junkie? The guy that beats up the gay guy?
I don't remember.
I think it is.
That doesn't
like some
sound
troubled
right.
kid. I forget how someone gets access into
to Greg Kinnear's.
I was really going to impress myself by saying that. No, it wasn't coming to me.
Oh, okay.
I want to say he's a troubled kid, but he seems like he'd been too old. But I guess
I think I remember him playing too young in that movie.
Okay, because it's like a law he has to keep his greasy hair. So there's no way they gave him an adult role. He would have had to wash it.
But he's like this young up and coming kind of brooding actor that now, James L. Brooks is putting him in his movie. Ang Lee's putting him in his movie. Paul Schrader's putting him in his movie. But he doesn't really have a movie career that takes off like that.
Fizzles out.
But I mean, look at his filmography. He's constantly on TV shows. Like he's doing fine.
He did the reverse Neve Campbell.
Yes. Well,
started in movies, went to shows.
Gotcha. But both of us were like, where has Skeet Ulrich been? And then I pull up his filmography and it's all TV shows, like, 20 episodes a year of a TV show on a network. And, no one I know has ever watched it.
Okay.
Hey, I meant to point this out. I've been watching the football with my dad this season.
How could you?
Yeah. And I've realized my entire life, the Saints play on Fox, and the Fox Broadcasting Network will air its promos for brand new TV programs. Mm-hmm. And my dad will be like, Matt, you're going to watch that?
Every fucking year.
And I've never, ever in my life said yes. Or do you watch that? I've never said yes ever. And it's still the preview starts coming on. I'm like, I bet he's about to ask. And then he does, Matt, you're going to watch that?
Hope springs eternal. He wants to watch things you're going to watch.
But he's not going to watch it. Why is he asking?
I have no idea. That sweet man.
Yeah. He is a sweet man. Okay, that's these two.
He's making chitty chat, Matt. Matty chat.
We go to the school. We meet our gang of kids.
The rare blonde Rose McGowan moment. I don't know of another blonde Rose McGowan role.
I guess they just needed to contrast her with Sydney because they dyed her hair for this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like they wrote it as blonde. And
and she kind of plays a little. She's always smart. Rose McGowan can't help herself. She just seems intelligent and ready for action.
That is, you're right. When I'm getting screenshots of the movie, I'm like, yeah, she's doing a lot of like kind of ditzy blonde.
It's all put on though. It's like she's putting it on.
But because it's Rose McGowan, you're like, no, you're a sinister little terrorist mastermind behind there.
Oh, I'm just thinking
just because of Jawbreaker.
Competent. Okay, but yeah, when women are competent.
In Jawbreaker, she's evil.
Anyway, what were you saying about?
I love Rose McGowan. I'm a big fan. With Stu as Matthew Lillard and Randy as Jamie Kennedy. And I like that when you see these guys all together, it is more like a real high school group where they're not actually all friends. Two of them are friends and they're just kind of linked.
There's the
awkwardly.
connector friends.
Yep.
Sid is the connector friend between Randy and the rest of the group. Probably they actually hang out. They actually talk. And obviously there's just something about Billy that he's kind of aloof to everyone but Stu.
Mm-hmm. And Stu and Randy are friends, but later like Stu and Randy
friends.
don't appear to be actual friends because he's like very menacing to him.
For sure. But you get the sense that they probably grew up together. So they have this like I talk to you, you talk to me, we talk. This isn't weird because he's kind of confiding in him when he knows Stu is Billy's like closest thing to a best friend. But obviously we figure out there's just no way to really be friends with Stu or Billy. I'm sure the friendship's always been kind of shit and surface, and he makes fun of you when it makes sense to make fun of you when you're not looking.
Yeah. I've never, you usually see in movies, you see groups of friends where everyone is friends. And I've never had that. I've never, I mean, I talk about never having friends. I did have friends, but yeah, my friend groups were never like that. It was always like, I'm the connector and the other two people, if I were not there, would not be talking to each other.
I think that's always a little bit true, but I think some groups end up gelling better than others. But there's always that weirdness of like, wait, I brought you two together. Now you guys are doing things without me. I mean, it's just always a balance, and it's hard to find a group that can strike that balance and then it not become an issue in some other kind of way.
So they're talking about the murder of Casey. They're like, how could you even gut somebody? And Matthew Lillard is like, you take a knife and you gut them from butt to nut. And then Skeet Ulrich is like, hey, it's called tact, you fuck rag.
Right.
I know I wrote down every fucking insult that someone calls somebody else.
But when you're looking for it, you do realize that neither of them ever let any kind of like fake give a shit seep out. All they do is kind of hold in their urge to like be super giddy and excited about what they've been doing. And in fact, when like you can tell who did what, like they're wearing a mask the whole time, but they hint toward who did what crime. While you're watching, because Stu's very annoyed at one point with someone implying that Billy did anything, so it's Stu that murdered Casey.
Yeah, I knew that. Do we think Billy is present at the murder of Casey? Okay.
Yeah, just the physics of it, they're together every time. Even when just the stalking is happening, that's my sense. They don't go out ghost facing unless they're going to do it together. I mean, I think that's kind of the pack.
What if they find out one of them was doing it? I want that.
I think it'd be.
I'd watch a TV show about this. If they make a Scream TV show, that's what it should be. And they have made a Scream TV.
They really should make this exact movie over again, but just from that perspective. Tell me what this looked like from what their end. That would be so interesting to me.
Jesus Christ! If we knew people at Comcast, you could walk in and pitch that.
I know. Well, especially if these actors still look this way, like that should have been Scream too. Just the hijinks behind the scene, and they add such weird camaraderie and then like hate for each other. And like, at what point did Billy decide he was going to actually way too intensely stab Stu? I mean, that seemed very intentional that Stu was going to die. I don't think he ever trusted him to keep the secret.
Yeah, and I think a little gay panic from Billy. He can tell Stu's in love with him.
Oh, all right.
You don't think that's true?
No,
I think Lillard is kind of playing it as like he kind of hero worships Billy.
That could be true, but I don't see it as sexual.
Well, but I mean, like the stabbing each other, stabbing in slashers is always sexually charged because you are penetrating somebody else. And then these big, tough guys start stabbing each other. It's there if you're looking for it.
I'm looking now.
The school is abuzz with talk of Drew Barrymore dying. Principal Henry Winkler calls Sydney into his office, and then we meet Dewey, David Arquette. What do we think of David Arquette?
Oh, it's a weird character, but Arquette makes it work.
It is a weird character.
It's strange. I've never seen it done before. It's this. It's a police officer that's like kind of risen in the ranks a little bit, but still lives at home with his mom and is constantly being like talked down to by everyone. But he does a good job, so he still gets to do stuff at the police force.
His name is Dewey, which is just very childish. But
because that's not his name. It's Dwayne
or Dwight.
Dwight, one of those.
He is like a Tim Burton hero, like plucked from that kind of like just a beta male, kind of cowardly hero plucked into this movie. But it's part of the alchemy of this movie.
For sure. I mean, and I would love to know, like, did Arquette come up with this like way to play this character, or did he know that this guy lived with his mom, so he kind of made that fit? But no, he's completely competent and brave. He's not a coward ever. And that's why the evolution of Dewey works, and why you can start to buy that, because it's clear that Gale Weathers is obviously hitting on him at least the first and second time to get access, but she's charmed by him every time, and then it just kind of becomes real at some point.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's not a coward. He just presents as cowardly.
Everyone
but he
undermines
does the brave thing.
There are and with a sister that looks like that, she's popular. Anytime she walks into a room, everyone's listening, and she's just so fucking cutting your balls at any chance. You're gonna need. It's a small town.
Tate, he's my superior. The janitor's your superior.
Everyone laughs.
I love Henry Winkler over the loudspeaker saying, "Remember, your principal loves you." But
so inappropriate, but still really sweet.
23-year-old Sydney gets off the bus from high school and walks into her giant empty house. And then what happens?
Well, okay, so we learn that Tatum is a cheerleader, which seems a little against that kind of person's type, and which doesn't seem like she'd be into that, but whatever, she's a cheerleader. And so she doesn't want Sid to be alone, because at this point, has he contacted her, the killer? I don't think so. No. So she gets off the bus, which... Stop it. You guys are at least juniors, if not seniors. No one your age is riding the fucking bus, you weirdo. But it's to make her seem alone. And she just goes in her house and kind of starts packing her stuff because she's going to stay with Tatum and Dewey while her dad's away. And
I guess she doesn't have a car, and that makes her more vulnerable and dependent on her friends to drive her around.
Yeah. For sure. And you still want to get the idea that like she lives too far away to help. This movie does a really good job of making every location too far away to help. Or when they go to the party at Stu's house, that long country road, that's for, you're supposed to feel the distance. So you're kind of surprised when the cops get there. And Sid, when you see those like huge views of the mountains, where does this fucking person live? No one is around here. And obviously they make a whole point of saying Casey lives in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know. She's pretty relatable. She's just in a big empty house collecting her things, waiting for someone else to pick her up. She's not really in control, and she needs protection. And
takes a nap on the sofa.
She falls asleep, and when she wakes up, it's dark, and it's always bummed me out.
That's always bummed me out. I get anxiety for her when she lays down on the sofa at 5:45. I'm like, Sid, that's a bad time to take a nap. Don't you do it? And you're going to wake up, and it's going to be nighttime, and you're going to look at the clock, and you'll be like, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. But no. Then the killer calls. And she's like, "Oh, Randy, you're such a screw fuck."
Yeah, they really go on and on with that. It's maybe every movie that uses this trope does it for too long, but it's like, I think you can tell that this is not Randy much sooner than you figure it out. I start to kind of mix all of the attack scenes on Sydney into one big one, because there's like 4, 5, I don't know, scattered, and some of them are super short, like the one in the bathroom at the school.
Well, this is, she's not aware of that the killer calls you first. So
No, I know.
She has no reason to like.
I know.
Yeah, so it's.
I was just trying to think how much happens here, but I did not remember that her thinking it's Billy happens that fast.
Yeah, and just having your final girl encounter the killer 25 minutes into your slasher movie is weird in and of itself.
Right.
It happens really fast. Yes. And the killer comes and she fights him off, and then Billy comes through her window and she's like, "Oh my God, you're the killer."
Right. But they do it just well enough that it's like, oh, was that an accident of the movie? Because you don't know there's two, but the timing makes no sense. He did not have enough time to leave the door he was pushing on to get up and over a roof and all that, so it suspends disbelief just enough, but then the phone falls out of his jacket and it's like, well, what the fuck's he doing with a cellular?
But is their plan? I mean, it's stupid to try to dissect what their plan is.
That's why I want the movie.
Why, they want to give her a red herring right now? Is all of this just so that she can start to suspect and then not suspect Billy? I
think they want to get her the phone because by them tracing and figuring out his phone activity, God, something tracks it back to the dad's phone.
Yes, because they can clone the dad's phone. Yeah, leave the phone here, and then that's because they're setting up that they're framing the dad.
Right. Otherwise, otherwise I'm not sure what they were trying to achieve here. But they definitely, God, yeah, I don't know.
Well, the cops show up. They find out the killer's left the mask behind, so now we have the cops have the mask. I'm like, okay, so this is just a mask you can buy at a store. And then at the precinct, they can't get in touch with Sydney's dad for whatever reason.
Look at his face. It's always bothered me how shitty Billy looks out at the office he's sitting in at the police station next to Sid, who's so upset that they've put a little blankie on her, but not so upset that they don't get her out of scalding distance from the fucking killer.
Oh, well, this is
mass murder.
It's like a little Mayberry town. They don't know what they're doing.
Look at his face.
They've never had to deal with this before.
Little face. Yeah. And the way he's looking at her expression doesn't make sense. She's like, "What's going on? Mad?
Hey, big guy.
Is this better than sex?"
They're interrogating Billy, and he's like, "No, I have my alibis and stuff." And they're like, "We don't believe you." And he's like, "Well, my cell phone records will show that I didn't." Well, no, first, what does a teenager need with a cellular telephone? And he's like, "They've all got them now, Chief." And
we just don't ever see him.
They're going to run his cell phone records, and that will prove whether or not he's the killer. But they got to keep him overnight because it'll take that much time. And
you meet his dad, and his dad is like somehow perfectly not warm, but not warm and greasy, just like Billy, and attractive, but small town attractive.
But bad dad, where's the lawyer? You do not, son, shut your fucking mouth right now when we don't have a lawyer in the room with us.
Do we not know that his dad isn't a lawyer?
If his dad is a lawyer, you know what you do. Then you should know even more. We're getting another lawyer here.
He's a business dad. He knows what he's doing, Matt. No, you're right.
Just so you all know, people.
Get a lawyer.
Get a fucking lawyer if you talk to the cops.
What if the FBI wants to talk?
Especially get a lawyer.
You get a lawyer for that one too. It's the same thing.
Get a lawyer.
It's
yes.
the same thing. Okay.
Thank you for that setup.
No, I'm serious because when I was listening to I was listening to a podcast about the Eric Adams indictments, and the guy was saying, if you've done crimes, don't talk to the FBI. I'm like, that's an option? You just tell them no? But I'm sure what he meant was get an attorney. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious.
I like when they have their texts that are like, all right, after we've done our crimes, please delete these. Remember to delete our crime texts.
I always do. Mm-hmm. So nice of him to have made that clear.
I love that there's you can be the mayor of New York. You can rise to that station in life.
We're not talking about Scream right now.
And be unaware that deleting a text message from your phone doesn't delete it from the universe.
Right.
It still exists somewhere.
It doesn't even work for cheating, guys. Okay. Even the example they were like, I love that Eric Adams thinks that it's like cheating on your wife to fool the FBI. Just delete. And I'm like, even then, a wife who thinks they've been cheated on knows you can find them. Mm-hmm. Matt over here sweating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
totally.
Totally. How do you do that?
Loud.
Okay, so they leave the precinct, but Gale Weathers is there, and she's like, Sydney, Gale Weathers, come, care to comment? And she's like, oh, hi, Gale, super bitch, and then punches her because these two, they have history. Because Gale covered Sydney's mom's brutal murder at the hands of Cotton Weary, and Sydney doesn't like things that Gale will be saying about her in an upcoming book or something like that.
Yeah, you're not totally sure. You're thinking, oh, okay, she's mad that this woman sensationalized something that was so traumatic and kind of like prolonged my trauma by being so involved in it. But then you realize Sid was probably always a little bit iffy about her being the one that put someone on death row. They should have never put that on a kid to choose to say, yes, that is him for sure. Like the whole court case hung on her eyewitness testimony. And what she doesn't like about Gale's book is that Gale thinks it doesn't make sense. She spent time with Cotton Weary. She's 90% sure that Sid picked the wrong person. And that's what Sid doesn't like, is that she's been telling lies. Like, oh no, she's an investigator.
Well, I know this is an annoying thing to point out, but wait, what kind of journalist is Gale Weathers then? She's an investigative journalist, but also like a sensationally tabloid person who shows up and puts a microphone in front of people's faces?
Yeah, that's weird. She also has a morning show that we never miss her show. She's everything.
She's just reporter.
I guess I take her as like a Geraldo Rivera, where like he had a show at one point. He's an investigative journalist, so he has these like specials as well. Plus, he'll take things that he goes through in the field and like make a book about it. But he's kind of scamming people. Am I saying the right name? Geraldo Rivera?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I take him to be. So she's a personality who does investigative shit that leads to a book.
Sydney goes to spend the night with her best friend Tatum. They have a little slumber party. I have here a screenshot of Rose McGowan's PJs and her stuffed animal, her jammy jams.
No, pajamas.
And Lacey, before I even complained about this while we were watching, she's like, people have pajamas, Matt.
I thought you were not liking Sid's. I think hers are the most realistic things I've
Sydney
ever
is just
seen.
wearing a t-shirt. That makes sense. People sleep in t-shirts.
With socks.
Rose McGowan is in like this, like from a cartoon, heavy pajamas. She just needs a fucking like sleeping cap and a candle, but she's holding a giant stuffed animal. This is fucking sexpot Rose McGowan, who again is probably 24 years old right here. Anyway,
that is just one thing that movies and TV cannot seem to get accurate, is what people sleep in. Mm-hmm. I can count on one hand, and I guess if they're doing it right, I'm not even noticing.
That's true. And also, like, hey, I get it. Women, everybody probably just doesn't want to be in the minimal amount of clothes that they actually sleep in, on camera when they're on a set for 2 straight days filming.
That's true.
This slumber party sequence. But anyway, the phone rings. It's for you, Sydney. Oh, it's the killer. Hello, Sydney. I'm gonna fucking
brazen for him to call the house that she's at with an officer of the law.
But this means it can't be Billy, or can it?
Or can't it?
The next morning, we find out about this Cotton Weary thing. Sydney maybe false identified him as the mom's killer. Dewey drops them off at school, and he's like, don't worry, Sid. It's school. You'll be safe here. And I guess in a pre-Columbine world that was not supposed to be ironic.
Yeah.
She sees Gale. She goes up to talk to Gale. Gale presents everything Lacey just said, that like, maybe you're not so confident that Cotton's the killer. Ooh, okay.
Well, this is the scene where I start to feel comforted when Gale's around, but you just see the way that her and Sydney interact with each other, and like they don't like each other, but they seem to trust each other. Or like you and I both don't want to die. Okay, cool. So like we're in this together. There's some, of course, Gale is still chasing like this amazing story, and she is until the very last scene of the movie. Mm-hmm. But there's caring in there too, and she does feel some sort of like motherly thing over Sid. You can just tell.
I agree. I think it's and when at the end Sydney says, "I like that story," when Gale comes in with the gun and it's like, "Let me tell you 2 fucks a story." This suddenly you're like, oh, these 2 women who have been at odds are suddenly basically women need to stick together and they can overcome the patriarchy. But it's very gratifying when suddenly they are on each other's side.
Which I think happens way earlier in the movie than you think. I think it happens right here in this scene. And I think there's still some hostility, but I think Sydney respects Gale. And again, I'm telling you, it's the only adult in the room. I think there's some relief when she's around her. She's just really like knows what's going on, has her head on a swivel in a way that the other adults don't.
Once Sydney leaves the scene, Courtney Cox is like super excited, and she talks to Kenny, her camera guy, and she's like, oh my God, I can get a Pulitzer. I can get a man off of death row. Oh my God. Now what would actually happen is the court would be like, we don't give a shit. He's already in prison.
But he's already there.
Yeah. You have to reopen the case? No, thank you.
All the stuff's in there.
Yeah. It's
the door sticks. You can't.
No, I mean, Missouri literally just executed a man who even the prosecutor was like, no, not the man. That's not it.
Don't do it.
They're like, sorry.
Wait.
It's a Friday. We're not going to.
God.
Students are wearing the ghost face mask in the school. Sydney gets attacked in the bathroom. Like there's just way too much contact with Sydney and the killer. If this is actually the killer, is this not in her head in the bathroom?
What? No, of course it's real. The killer's already in there. He's about to there, and that killer's going to go kill the principal.
Yes,
now.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just a little too much interaction between Sydney and the killer.
I think it's supposed to be our big clue that this is a student. That these are students.
Well, okay. Of course, they're students.
I think it's odd. I think it's definitely. I can't think of another movie where there's this much. I mean, maybe in Halloween, there seems to be a lot of times that Michael sees Jamie, but it's all in one night. I guess with every serial killer movie, there needs to be the stalking, and this is their version of that.
Mm-hmm.
Go get you. But like, if the goal was to fucking kill her on the mother's death anniversary, why are you trying now? Why are you trying the next day? Wait for the anniversary.
I guess they're not trying to kill her now. They're just trying to freak her out.
Yeah.
And it's working. And then she goes and tells the principal, Mr. Principal, the killer in the bathroom. And the principal's like, that's it. Classes are canceled for the day.
I'm sick of this in the bathroom business.
And so all the kids leave school and they're like, hooray, and they throw their papers in the air. And then Henry Winkler is left alone in what appears to be I think I remember this is just in reshoots. They're like, let's give Henry Winkler something to do. Mm-hmm. And so then the killer comes and kills him because it seems so disconnected from the rest of the movie. But it does come back later in the movie.
But you also need yet another adult, yet another person with access to Sydney at the school to give you that whodunit. You know, that's why there's so many. He's menacing with the he seems unhinged. He's acting a bit unhinged and a little too attached to his students the whole time. It's just another plausible deniability moment.
I forgot to mention there's a conversation with Sydney and Billy at school where he's like, listen, now that you know I'm not the killer, can we have sex? And she's like, I don't know, Billy.
This is the most fucked up conversation he has with her the whole time, where it's just like, what's your damage? Just like, you're acting so but I'm sorry, my traumatized life, it's an inconvenience. And then she runs all bow-legged into the fucking bathroom.
Well, before that, he's like, I mean, I think it's time you get over all of that.
Yes, that's what he says.
When my mom left my dad, I accepted it. Which, of course, the whole movie is because he didn't accept.
Right. And that's why it's so delicious when she calls him a little mama's boy at the end.
A little mama's boy pansy. Yes, it is so good.
That's right, he is.
Then we have the video store scene between Stu and Randy. And Randy he also is a little nuts. So you're like, I guess he might be the killer because he's just shouting about shit.
You need all
ranting and raving like a lunatic. I remember there being more. It is in the sequel where he starts laying out his there are rules to a sequel because in a sequel, this means that and this means that.
He picks up the rules thing again. But Oh, you're saying you remembered that the rules are just in the sequel?
I misplaced that into this.
Do too.
And but really they're just like, anyone could be a suspect. It could be you. It could be me. And he's like, what's my motive? And Jamie Kennedy's Randy is like, my motive is it's the millennium. Motives don't exist. And everyone's like, or Billy and Stu are both like, millennium. I like that. Good word there, bud. Millennium. I guess in 96, millennium was a novelty word.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until maybe 99 that people were saying it all the time.
I think so.
Sydney and Tatum.
Are they at a Buc-ee's?
No, they're not at a Buc-ee's.
What is that shit on the wall? It was a bird. I was like, did the Buc-ee's mascot used to look really, really photorealistic? It just looks like
it's some sort of red tail beer that they have the bottles of beer and then a poster and then
Two
merchandise
shirts.
you
Yes.
can buy.
Sorry. Just all of a sudden it's like, wait, why is a squirrel on every single thing in this store? Have I never noticed they're at a Buc-ee's?
Yeah.
Just a real realistic squirrel.
Not at a Buc-ee's.
No.
The town is shutting down for curfew. Sydney and Tatum are in the store buying supplies for the party tonight at Stu's house. And then and Sydney's like, I feel so bad for Billy. All he wants to do is have sex with me, and I'm just being such a bitch because I'm not doing it. And Tatum's like, I wouldn't say that about yourself, really. And she's like, no, it's true. How many guys will put up with a girlfriend who's sexually anorexic? I think that might be my least favorite line in movies.
Okay.
Sexually anorexic.
Fine. But what you were bothered by this scene in this line before, and it seems like the overall concept is bugging you too. Or you're just saying just the... Do you not think this is a believable conversation between two girlfriends?
I believe that. And it's not that it's not realistic that someone's
so much
saying
pressure to have sex.
It's the phrase sexually anorexic.
Okay.
That is a 30-year-old writing a clever line. I hate it so much. I've never heard such a written line.
Okay, but I will say the term anorexia and bulimia were very thrown around at this age. For high school age girls, it was something to joke about.
Understood.
But yeah.
Somebody said that, and if somebody makes a turn of phrase like that, the person who they're talking to is gonna be like, wait, what? Or like, oh, good one.
Oh, Sydney.
Yeah.
Millennium.
I know it's annoying for me to just complain about the quippiness and the like, this doesn't.
No, that's one of your pet peeves. That's like a through line in this discovery we've made while doing the podcast. There are things that really bug the fuck out of you. And I'd say I even have a couple of them, Matt.
So there's a party at Stu's house.
And everybody's coming.
Yes,
Except
everyone's
for
coming.
Sid, because it's her first time having sex.
Yeah, and they're in Stu's parents' bedroom.
Smelling other mom smell.
You want to smell your own mom smell when
She doesn't even have her
you're having
own
sex.
mom, though.
Yeah.
So that's when
So maybe she likes it.
it's a real libido killer. Okay, go on.
Yes, it's Stu's house, and everyone's coming, even though there's a curfew. But Dewey, the cop, drops them off. I don't know what the deal is with the curfew. And Dewey, then Gale Weathers shows up and starts flirting with Dewey, and Dewey's like, well, hey, why don't I take you outside of the party? And he comes in, he's like, look, I got famous woman. And they're all like, oh, famous woman. And and she surreptitiously leaves a little camcorder that has a remote transmitter.
Key. That's going to be key, Matt.
It will be. Matthew Lillard sends, Stu sends his girlfriend, Tatum, hey, go give me a beer, babe. And she's like, what am I, the beer wench? She says it to herself, but he's sending her off to her death.
Which has to be Billy killing, right? Because Stu was in the other room.
He's inside, yeah. Dewey brings Gale into the house, and Tatum's like, well, before Tatum becomes a beer wench, she's like, what is she doing here? And I like that he's excited. He's like, she's with me. And then she's
pulling bitches.
Take your media muff out of here. Your media muff.
Oh no. Kids, no one says muff. That is such an old fart word. I'm always impressed at this. This is my favorite kill, but I always trick myself into thinking she's going to get away. Like there's something about
It's my
her.
favorite kill where she lives.
She's just so damn competent. Mm-hmm. She is fighting back great. She's got amazing aim with those beer bottles.
Because she goes into the garage to get a lot of beers.
All the beers.
And then the killer comes. He's like, very funny, Randy. Move aside.
Randy really must be up to some bullshit hijinks in earlier years. Yes. God, Randy.
He's the annoying guy from every Friday the 13th movie who's like, I'm the killer. No, just kidding. It's just me, Shelley.
He's not. He just keeps being accused of it. He's not ever once done anything except for take it really seriously. And he's like screaming from the rooftops, it's Billy!
You know what else? Well, two things. One, they keep saying scary movie instead of horror movie. Number two, we know lots of people who love horror, and I love horror movies, and you love horror movies. Mm-hmm. It's not like my identity, but I know people who make it their identity.
Yeah.
I don't think they are like, you know what I love is scaring people in real life.
Well, wait, you're saying you think the movie thinks that?
Is the movie suggesting that if you love horror movies, a thing that you enjoy doing is dressing up as a killer to scare the people you know?
No. I think that we are supposed to be, because he's the one that has all this knowledge of I don't know, Matt. Actually, honestly, but I think they're just trying to make you think that, okay, he's the goofy friend. Goofy friend does goofy things.
Yeah.
My own boyfriend would know not to do this. There's no way Billy would do this. What other male do I know that would be so comfortable with me that he'd do this? I guess answer, Randy.
Okay.
I guess it's not so much that we all have a friend like this. It's that we all have to narrow down our group of friends to who would actually fucking do this. It's
Who's
so
annoying?
dumb. Right. It is. It's very annoying. I'm pissed.
I'm just saying, people who love movies, the thing about us is that we don't do stuff. We like to watch, not do stuff.
Seems like a lot of effort to like go get that costume.
Yes, exactly.
Wait for someone to go in the fucking. And what if she drops all the beer? It's not like she grabs one. She's grabbing a quarter of the beer. You don't scare her.
No. But so the killer comes in, then I'm going to kill you. And Wes Craven is just.
Oh, Mr. Serial Killer. I'm sorry. She just goes into sex kitten so easy.
What he is so great at in these movies, in Nightmare on Elm Street, in his movie Red Eye, in People Under the Stairs, is put a killer and the victim in a room
where no one else can hear
and have them have there being chases around the room, use the objects in the room, gets like to the geography and the geometry, and film it in such a way that it is scary and thrilling. And that's what makes these movies so special.
So
and this
right.
is one of the best.
You're so right. And like you can point to the different locations in each movie where he really gets some magic out of it. I mean, obviously in the theater, but then there's one in like a sound booth that's so good. And then I want to say in the last movie, or maybe the second to last, whichever one was the last one that Gale and Dewey are in, it's some kind of barn. Kind of like there's like a second level to the barn and they're having a party. And
oh yeah.
I don't remember the movie very well, but that was like, God, he's good with this.
I think my favorite sequence in any Scream movies, in Scream 2, there's just a part where Sidney and somebody else, I don't remember who else, are in the car and the killer's right outside the car.
I can't. No, he's in the car and they have to get over him.
Okay, yes.
They've made him pass out and they both have to get out through the same door that he's sitting in.
And the setup couldn't be more simple, and it is so tense and thrilling.
I'm glad that you like it because it stresses me the fuck out. And I guess that makes it good, but I have a hard time with it. But yeah. And I think that might be why it was even harder for me to like go down a slasher journey with you after these movies being so staple in my life, then to visit Halloween and Friday the 13th, because it's not elaborate at all. You don't spend very much time on each kill at all. And Halloween, you take more time. But especially with Friday the 13th, then he just gets it fucking done. And just like on to the next one. I guess I just expected a more elaborate shit with each.
These are certainly more character based, so they're more up your alley. But you know, most of the Friday the 13th and Halloween movies don't have a director this good.
Right.
But yeah, she gets killed because she tries to escape through a doggy door, and then the killer turns on the garage door. This is the world's strongest garage door because it traps her. I mean, when I was like 7 years old, I would try to ride up the garage door, and my friend broke it as a result. You know, my 60-pound friend. So anyway, plot hole. But then she gets killed this way, and then she gets turned into a dummy, which is great. I love that you can tell it's a dummy. It's like it's movie magic. All the people are in the house watching the film Halloween, and this stresses me out because they're talking during all the best parts of the movie. Billy shows up to make up with Sid, and then they go up to the parents' bedroom, and Sydney's like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I've been such a bitch. I think it's time to turn my life into a porno." And so they have sexual intercourse. And while the kids downstairs are watching TV, they're talking about things like, oh, here comes the obligatory tit shot, while upstairs, she takes off her shirt. And then Randy starts giving out his rules about surviving a horror movie. And this really mainstreamed the idea of the final girl has to be a virgin.
Yeah. Which
people like John Carpenter have said, like, that is total bullshit. That was never, at least consciously, what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's like whole academic papers about interpreting the idea that it has to be a virgin who survives horror movies. And there's a billion examples of that not being the case. My take has always been like sex is when you are most vulnerable. So it is
like
often
shitting or sleeping. Shit, sleep, shower, sex. Mm-hmm. It's all the times you're not paying attention or naked.
And then afterward, it's your most vulnerable. And afterward, maybe your brain's not working as good.
For sure.
So yeah, no sex and no drinking or drugs. And they're all like, no.
Must you? What the fuck, Matt? Why? Why do you always have these intense faces in your freaking gonna kiss, about to fuck? I don't need to see this.
All right. Well, Lacey, when I make my slideshows, I'm going as fast as I can. We have so much to do.
Right.
It's not like I'm like, ooh, what's the perfect screenshot I can get? I truly am going so fast.
It just feels
it's
like
never
it's
intentional.
to fuck with me. Okay, fine.
No, I mean occasionally it is, but no, not this case. I just wanted to show Billy and Sid making love, and then when they're done, Billy's like, "Are you okay?"
Which is my favorite.
I wrote
Every
down,
girl wants to
Lacey
hear that.
soaked her jeans when she saw this.
Not from Billy.
But then Sid starts to get suspicious of Billy again. But why? What does he say or let slip?
She just has a moment of clarity after the sex for some reason and says, "Who did you call whenever you were in jail?" He just comes to her. Does she see a phone and go, "Oh, phone. Who did you call?" I don't know, but just saying, it'd be a really smart way for you to throw me off your trail if you use your one phone call.
You didn't though. And he's like,
I don't think
you cunt. Why?
I think it's like anybody going through something really traumatic with someone that they care about. They don't want it to be true. So I think she's like happy to. Okay, God. Okay, good. He couldn't have called me from jail. So police officers, it's not him. But then he's so fucking weird to her and shitty to her, so she walks away and doesn't want to see him. But then she does see him, and it's like, I've been stressing out thinking about, are you a fucking killer? And maybe I need to get you back on my good side if you are, or I just want to go back to like normalcy and where I have a loving boyfriend. Let's go fuck. And then the thought creeps in again, and then he's weird again. And it's like, you can try to convince yourself that someone's not dangerous a bunch of times before they prove that they are. It's ignoring red flags. That's all it is.
Okay, and then it'll just keep coming back. And
classic.
If he wasn't the killer,
abusive behavior.
8 years from now, she'd still be like, "So Billy, you totally not the killer, right?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Why am I gonna have to keep answering?"
It's because in between these moments, Billy, you're a little fucking weird.
It's because you stare out at the rain and
you're mad
your
at
beard.
every drop for some reason. You don't answer questions normal.
But the killer comes and kills Billy. And we get another really great Wes Craven chase through the house, which we've now observed the geometry of the geography of the house and the dueling staircases that lead to this little hallway. And Sid makes it out of the house through the attic and down into the grounds. She ends up in the news van where Kenny the news van is. And because we've had this great setup with the delay of the video camera, we can see back in the past that Jamie Kennedy as Randy is watching Halloween by himself, and he keeps talking to Jamie Lee Curtis. He's like, "Look out, Jamie.
No, he's behind you. He's right behind you." But he's saying his own name.
As Jamie Kennedy has the killer right behind him.
I did want to point out that you even had the subtitle on this shot that you used, that one of the things those kids are talking about while they're trying to watch the movie is, "Oh, it's so red." It's the next one. That the blood is too red. Like, why would they use that kind of blood? It's too red. And then Billy gets fake stabbed.
Yeah, you're right.
And corn syrup comes out of him. Mm-hmm. They mention corn syrup here. He says corn syrup later.
You're right. That's a great observation, love.
I'm observant.
And in this one, they're like, "Look, here comes the obligatory tit shot." And then PJ Souls shows her tits, and they're all like, "Yeah!" But then the women are like, "Ugh, these scuzzballs."
It's exactly the kind of viewing experience I remember having in high school.
Really?
Yeah, it's what everyone's like, "Oh, that's lame. Oh, that's stupid. Oh, that's sexist. Oh, that's fun. Oh, that makes me hot." It's all just like, we're watching this so that we're going to fuck later or do drugs later, right? It's never just to watch a movie.
Again, this is like describing life on Mars to me. Never had that experience.
I had a huge group of friends. We always try to watch a movie, and it's like, it's not really what we're doing.
I mean, even our movie friends will talk about, "I had some friends over, so we put on a movie." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?"
Well, I guess that's what I assume people mean when they say it's a hangout movie. It's like something you can kind of accept that you're not going to really see the whole thing of it. You're hanging out. I know.
I invite you to watch movies with me, and that's about it.
Yeah, you're hard. You are tricky to watch a movie.
And I know I'm representative of a normal person, so
100%.
yes. I love the idea to have the camera show inside the house. They're in the news van watching it. They're watching the killer, and then they realize there's a 30-second delay, and they look outside, and then the killer's right there. It's just this. It's really kind of a trippy. It's such a simple idea, but it's so trippy to see him on TV and then look outside and he's right there. And it's like he teleported, and he kills Kenny, the camera guy. But Kenny heroically says to Neve Campbell, "Door, close the door." So Neve Campbell does, and then she escapes, and then she runs away, and then gets into a car, and Ghostface like stalks her there. And
she's good at making the doors lock, though. Mm-hmm. Getting that lock. He unlocks it. Get that lock.
How can you? One day we'll get an old car and we'll see. Is this actually something you can do? Is just go under it and unlock the door?
Sony did. He had the keys.
But he was doing it from under the car. He was unlocking the car from under the car.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
He was just crouched down, unlocking it through the key.
That's what he was doing?
Yes, Matt. That's why there's time to hit it after he unlocks it. You have to take a key, unlock it, then you put the keys away, open the door.
Really long arms. You're laying down on the ground, you're reaching up with your arm to do that?
No, Matt.
Yes, Lacey.
He's
under the car.
No, he's not. He's just doing this.
Okay.
It's a crouch.
All right.
Good God. No, definitely just under it. Just like, what the?
That's less scary. Why are you so mad?
It's not less scary. It's more scary because if you are a good croucher, if you're athletic at all, you can run like that. So he's like, that's what's crazy. It's like, where is he going to pop out? Oh my God. I can't see him. Maybe it's because of all my experience with, but this is half the games we play with him is I get really low. So he doesn't know what side of a piece of furniture I'm going to pop out.
All right. I have a question. Mm-hmm. Why does this make you so mad?
I don't know.
When I misunderstand something like this, like you get so furious.
I think you might be reading it as me being mad. I'm just more like amused.
Yeah, well,
I'm amused. You amuse me.
A lot of fun.
Oh.
But the scariest thing in the movie to me is the moment when he drops down and goes, well, I guess he doesn't go under the car. He can just drop down and crouch down, but just not seeing him anymore is like, oh shit.
Of course. Now he can be anywhere. Like it's scary to see him, but it's scarier when he goes.
She gets out of the car. She runs back to the house. Randy and Stu are both there, and they're both like, he's the killer. No, he's the killer. No, he's the killer.
So good.
You gotta believe me, Sid. She finds a gun. She's like, fuck you both. And then goes into the house. Oh, because Dewey stumbled out of the house. He was stabbed. We don't see him get stabbed, which is weird. I guess we can't because who did he get stabbed by? So she locks herself in, and then Billy stumbles down the stairs. And she's like, oh, Billy, you're alive. He's like, yes, I'm alive.
I'm okay. Feeling all right.
Feeling like I could take on the whole empire myself. Need a cup of coffee. And she lets Randy in, and Randy's like, oh, Stu's going mad. And then Billy's like, we all go a little mad sometimes. And shoots him dead. What?
Does he just let Randy in? Okay. All right.
So reveals himself. He's the killer. And then he's like, Anthony Perkins, psycho. And thus begins, the 20-minute stretch where Stu and Billy reveal we're the killers. We're in on it together. And Matthew Lillard is playing this at 10,000. God, he's going so big.
It's best. It's best because he would be so heightened. He'd be giddy with joy. They've been planning this shit for a year. Because they attempted to do, I don't really get it. Like, I know Billy killed the mom a year ago, but was Stu in on it yet? I don't know about that. And what was the point of waiting a year? Just to
it's the anniversary of the death.
That's not what I mean. I mean, why not kill all of them right then? But why get mad at, if you didn't think to kill Sid then, but you are still dating her for some reason. Oh, he needed to fuck.
He did. And I don't think he started dating her until his dad left his mom for Sydney's mom. His mom left. Then he's like, I shall now begin my multi-phase plan. Go out with this lady on a date. Would you like to go get coffee with me? Talk to her on this first date. What do you talk about? Pretend that I'm not a psychopath and my mom left for her mom or whatever. Over the course of 2 years, woo the lady. And then he's like, yeah, because of our horror movie obsession, I need to bed her, and then she can die because of our rules.
Sure, but it just occurred to me that he waits to kill her after he's fucked. After he's fucked her. But the whole movie is about him trying to get her to fuck. So if she would have fucked him in the first scene where he comes through her window.
I have to kill her right after that.
Okay. So that's what I was saying. I don't think it was about don't think it was about the anniversary at all. I think he just thought he'd get some a lot sooner. She might have caused her mother's death.
Oh my God.
If she would have just put out, it would have settled the score.
He'd gotten it out of his system.
Yeah.
He just needed a nut.
He needed it tit for tat. Like, okay, your mom's gonna fuck up my life. I need your pussy to renew my life. Then you can all live. You really thinking about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. If you're a teenager and you have a boyfriend, or if you have a partner who has a penis, you just need to fuck them because they might
kill you or your mom.
Or someone you love, and that's what Load Bearing Beams is here to tell you. If you don't think you're ready, why am I saying this? Yeah. So they're like, but what's your motive? And he's like, did Norman Bates have a motive?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Did they ever decide why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people?
Yeah.
It's better when there's no motive, but here's my motive. And then he reveals he has a motive. And I like that you can see on Stu's face, he seems a little betrayed because I think this is the first time he's ever actually heard this. And I think he was like, I thought you had like an actual ideology, but no, it's just about stupid revenge. But then he like adjusts.
Wait. You think this is no?
I think Matthew Lillard's face is like he's hearing this for the first time. When Billy is like, well, how about this for a motive? Your slut mother. You're
picking up on the right thing, but for the wrong reason. He knows about the past with the mom and who Billy is and all that. What I think Matthew's let down by is that he didn't come up with a motive or an alibi or anything like that. I think he feels like, you didn't tell me we were going to have motives.
Okay.
No, you're right. I guess it doesn't make sense. He does. I don't know. But also he's already been stabbed, right? So maybe he's already starting to kind of realize.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I don't know. Stu definitely starts to get the sense that he's always been meant to die from that first stab being just goes too far in, and he's like, wait a minute.
Well, then, I mean, I think that's it. It's like this means something different to this guy, and I'm taken for granted that he's totally on my side. I don't remember if they start stabbing each other before Gale comes in or after, but Gale comes in with a gun. She's like, I've got a story for you. You fuckos. Here we go. And Billy's like, hey, bitch, safety's not on. The safety's on the gun, and then knocks her out. But then they turn around, and Stu is like, Bill, where's Sydney? Sydney
and the gun
are gone.
And the dad. She is fast.
And she's calling from inside the house. And when the phone rings, you got to answer it. So Stu picks it up, and he's been stabbed. Oh, I love my favorite part of the movie. My favorite line of the movie is after they start stabbing each other because their idea is they're going to bring out Sydney's dad. They're going to make it look like he killed himself and they were stabbed, but they're going to live.
Yeah.
But it involves them having to stab each other.
Yeah.
And Billy gets a little too nuts with stabbing Stu. And he's like, that was really deep, man.
Yeah.
But I love when he's just like, fuck, man, that was really deep. I think I'm dying, man.
My favorite part is whenever he hands him the phone too rough and he's like, hit me with the phone.
That too, yes.
Dick.
No, Billy throws it at him. He throws it at his head. He's like, you threw me at the phone, dick.
Because he was so badly stabbed the first time. And he gets stabbed a good bit before Billy ever gets stabbed at all. Billy gets stabbed one time. Stu gets stabbed in the middle. It was supposed to be on the side. He gets stabbed in the middle. That is fucking key. And so he's begun dying before he's still excited though. This is still going to work out. This is going to work out. Then he stabs Billy one time in the same way that's agreed upon. And for some reason, Billy then stabs him a bunch more times.
Because he doesn't want him to live. Because he's a liability.
Yeah.
It's like the opening of Dark Knight. You can't actually leave any accomplices. You have to shoot them all. But it's Matthew Lillard, it's kind of sweet here, the way he's playing it as he's dying. He picks up the phone, he's like, talk to me. Sid, did you really call the cops?
No, did you really tell, are you really going to tell my mom and dad?
No, did you call the cops?
Yeah,
they're going to tell my mom and dad would be so mad at me. Plus, this is all happening at your house. Your house is a mess. No party, Stu, while we're gone. But Sydney overpowers Stu by dropping a TV on him. Billy jumps on top of Sydney and she gets him off of her by pushing in on his stab wound. Mm-hmm. Some penetration. This is now the woman taking over. Okay. I just like that as a means of hurting somebody is pushing in on their wound.
I do too. Yeah.
And what's wrong with what I just said?
I never really noticed your fascination with like the penetration stuff in slasher movies. That's
all I think about. When Gale comes in.
You're gooning over there.
I mean, we're always gooning, are we not? So Gale comes in and I don't even know what gooning is. So Gale comes
gooning
in.
Is prolonged masturbation, like to the point of delirium.
Oh, then yeah, we are always gooning.
Well, but you're edging. You're not actually coming. You're just edging the whole time.
Again, that's what we're always doing, isn't it? So Gale comes in, shoots Billy. He jumps up one more time. Sydney shoots him. So the two women, female solidarity, working together, have overpowered the killer with no doubt about it. And Sydney, I like definitively, Sydney just shoots him
in the head.
I think that slasher purists object to there being guns, and I kind of agree. I don't really want guns in my slasher movies. It's not that I don't want them to shoot. It's not the victims can have the gun, can shoot the killer. I don't want the killers to have a gun because they do use the gun. And that's it. And the movie, I love that this movie, which has so much plot, I always assume like, well, you're going to see like the next morning, Cotton Weary is out of jail. And for a movie to pack so much plot in, there's usually now a coda where you wrap up all the storylines, but no, Gale Weathers starts talking into a camera and then the movie's just over. Yeah. So that's Scream. Lacey.
God. Yes, God.
What do you think of Scream?
I give it 5.
5 stars.
I gave it 5.
5 stars, my God.
I said it's a Scream, it's a teen dream. That's what I said in my Letterboxd review.
Anything else? Can you give us anything non-letterboxed?
Sure. Most of what I say is not on Letterboxd. I every time I watch it, I like it more. It never starts to fall apart. It never gets worse. There's something new to discover. I want to live in there. And if I want to live in the world you've made, I like it.
Favorite performance? We probably said it. Favorite performance is Matthew Lillard.
Yeah. Yep. And then I guess Drew Barrymore. But I always love Monica.
Courtney Cox.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, Drew Barrymore's really good. I mean, she's so key to what makes the opening sequence so good and what makes it so upsetting is how she sells it.
And Arquette. I love him in
David
this too.
Arquette. Yeah, everyone's good. This is a phenomenal cast. And the adults too. I love Henry Winkler. I love whoever plays that cop. I like Kenny, the camera guy.
I like Kenny. I love Randy.
See, I think Jamie Kennedy's the one guy I'm not crazy about in these movies.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I really like him. I'm sad when he's gone.
But they obviously were like, oh, but Jamie Kennedy's popping. We killed him too early, so he needs to come back in Scream 3 in the form of a videotape. He's like, guys, just in case I died, here's my message for the third movie.
I like that. That's
that's fine.
And even the dad, I never remember what the dad looks like. Every time I see him, I'm like, oh, that's what he looks like.
Yeah,
but
he's kind of anonymous.
Yeah. He kind of looks like Norman Bates to me. I don't know if that's on purpose. I think they give you a little edge to him, a little bit of like, we don't really get to see the warmth because we need to think he could possibly be the killer.
That's true. And speaking of Norman Bates, Lacey made an excellent, amazing video about the movie Longlegs and her read of the movie. And what does it have to do with Norman Bates? Well, Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates, he has a son named Oz Perkins who directed Longlegs.
Yeah.
So check it out on our YouTube, Longlegs, Lacey's read of the movie.
Matt, what are your final thoughts and star rating?
My God, thank you. Well, I love Wes Craven. I think he's like, if you compare him to John Carpenter, I feel like John Carpenter's more of the, I mean, I think of Wes Craven as like a classic studio kind of for hire director. You hire him to make your picture. Whereas I think John Carpenter's maybe more of an artist and Wes Craven's more of a craftsman, but I think there's few better at the craft of horror and especially slasher. And this is great. I made my complaints about the movie known throughout this, but I still give it 4 stars. It's my favorite in the series. I think I just like this series less than other people, but I like all the movies. But even when people were rapturous about the most recent movie, and my reaction was like, yeah, it's fine. It's a Scream movie. I don't know. But this is the best one. Mm-hmm. And that's that. That's the final word. And next week on Load Bearing Beams, our month of spooks continues with The Others from 2001, starring Nicole Kidman, October 11th, 2024. Have you seen The Others, Lacey? This is my movie.
Yes, you had me watch it.
Oh, fuck. Okay, well, still. Movie I love, have not seen it in a long, long time. Curious to revisit it.
That's we should revisit that.
If you haven't already, please tell a friend about this. I'm sure you have. Hey, Jeff, let me tell you about this podcast.
I need you to come over for dinner. We have to talk about something.
We have to talk.
Yes. And don't tell him what it is. Make him think, what could this be?
Make him say the dinner's next week. Make him think about it for a long time. What is this going to be? Review us, please. 5 stars. Subscribe on YouTube, Load Bearing Beams Pod. Follow us on social media. Follow us on Letterboxd. I'm at Matt Stokes 9. Lacey's at Load Bearing Lacey. And follow my band Rural Route 9 because we do the music for the show. We're on Twitter at Rural Route 9, NINE.
Show up wherever they are. Follow them.
Which is nowhere. But our music can be found on Spotify, RURALROUTENINE. The Joy of Averages. We do the music for the show.
THEJOYMOUSE. Okay, I love you. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, I love you. Goodbye.
Three, four. Everybody, love me.